Chapter 734. Everyone was surprised. From where they were, the Echo Hill Castle was just a small black dot in their vision. This is the place. Su Anzhong, who had been silent all this while, suddenly opened his mouth. His face was pale, but he was still full of energy. After experiencing the trial of the heart demons, although his internal injuries were not light, his foundation was not damaged. As long as he could defeat his inner demons, his strength would transform once again. The group walked outside the city. No one dared to fly. Instead, they carefully walked along the mountain path. If Lu Tianwen were to see it, everyone would die in one shot, and they would not even have a place to cry out for help. The green wind and lightning around Lu Tianwen's body flashed, and he disappeared into the sky. The door to the training room opened. One by one, strong figures covered in sweat stood up straight, carrying their broad guillotine blades on their shoulders. Their faces were filled with fighting spirit. Everyone agreed in their hearts. Regardless of whether Ghost Face Mask won or lost, Ben Sin had profited. We will do our own things. Ming Zhu remained calm, as though she was not affected at all. Only her fingers that were tightly gripping her sleeves revealed the same worry in her heart. His Excellency had been in his room for 3 whole days. It's just a few days of work, it won't take up too much of everyone's time, seeing is believing. So you said? In the corner, Nietchio, who was seated cross-legged, suddenly said, "Then let's end this battle before the rainbow stream appears." Nietchio's voice was no longer as gentle as usual, but had become extremely cold. An expert on the list of combat power? How exciting! Everyone's expression changed as they looked at the 2 little girls. The wounds on his body had long since healed, but he wasn't in a hurry to attack Shadow Mountain Castle. Instead, he was resting his mind. This was where he was experienced. He knew that it was a great taboo to rush to the door and attack. He had spent a few days nurturing his essence, qi, and spirit. Today, his essence, qi, and spirit were all at their peak. Ming Zhu was in a daze. The fate of the Shui family was currently tied to Master Ghost Face Mask. Adjust your breathing before the battle. I've fought him before. No one can become so strong in such a short period of time. Black Benson remained expressionless. His tone was low and powerful, and had a convincing feel to it. His words were equally convincing. Everyone was a little dumbfounded. The 2 energetic girls with crisp voices made it impossible for anyone to associate them with the more Iron Guard. I don't believe it either, Victor agreed. Everyone quickly entered their battle positions. The familiar training process made him feel like he had returned to the past. The sound of the wind that filled the sky disappeared. He withdrew his technique and stood upright. His face was covered with beads of sweat, and his eyes were like stars. Behind the door, everyone's breathing suddenly stopped. This was the place where he had watched the previous battle. Su Anzhong said solemnly, "If we get any closer, they will notice." I don't believe it. In the corner, the hair on Nietchio's forehead moved without any wind. The Null Division members who were training bitterly stopped, and did not make a sound. Tang Tian's expression was solemn, and his whole body emitted a piercingly cold battle intent. He passed through the training ground and walked out of the stone castle. He stepped onto the stone wall and sat down cross-legged, closing his eyes to rest. She had a tall and slender figure, a neat battle suit, an exquisite oval face, a ponytail, and a pair of big smiling eyes. The 2 of them looked exactly the same, and it was impossible to tell them apart. It was Lu Tianwen, not anyone else. He was ranked 39 on the list of powerhouses. In other words, to be ranked 39 in the entire Sin domain, what kind of existence was that? Do not think that they were all famous people in Purple Cuckoo City, but in front of Lu Tianwen, they were all trash. Everyone's faces changed. Was that the strength of a martial artist on the list of powerhouses? Isn't that a bit too far? Victor muttered. Tang Tian looked as though he was possessed. Using his hand blades again and again, he trained in the heavy demonic execution. In the spacious and dim training ground, only Tang Tian's figure was there. A faint light aura shone down from above, landing on the figure who was perspiring profusely. Black Benson said expressionlessly, "Greetings, seniors." The 2 young ladies greeted at the same time. Now, we have to see if Ghost Face Mask can survive Lu Tianwen's attacks. Dismantling, assembling, training. He did not know how many times he had trained. It had been a long time since he had trained for so long. The Null Division members who were perspiring profusely, all of their eyes exploded with light auras. The fighting intent in their bodies quietly ignited. Tang Tian's actions gave them a signal. Master is ready. Her mood became joyous. Even Su Yi revealed a rarely seen look of vexation. To any family, they would always spare no effort in grooming their youths. I have placed too much emphasis on the family's benefits. Why didn't I think of that? In the violent gale, a figure that was as stable as a boulder passed through the door and entered everyone's eyes. Su Yi, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly spoke out, causing everyone to immediately become alert and look over. But very quickly, everyone reacted. The big black man is still the most astute. That's right, why didn't I think of that? Everyone immediately revealed looks of regret. A battle between martial artists of Lu Tianwen's level was something that could only be chanced upon, and to be able to personally witness it, it would definitely be beneficial for them in the future. He looked up at the sky. The rainbow stream was fast approaching. The life origin essence that he had absorbed previously was completely stimulated. The endless origin force gave him an endless amount of strength. The others did not say anything. All of them had their own thoughts. Enter the battle position. Everyone's mood immediately became bad. Tang Tian walked forward slowly without saying a word. Now we can only wait. Su Yi smiled, although the Roland family had snatched first, but he had more chips in his hands. As long as he had the Null Division prisoners, he had the qualifications to bet. Benson said with an expressionless face, "You better not provoke them, they just passed the death-smelting trial." "Yes, let them see the world." Benson remained expressionless. "Guys, get ready for battle." Amaury grinned. Victor, on the other hand, had a bitter taste in his mouth. The elders in his family were a bunch of idiots. If Ghost Face Mask was killed by Lu Tianwen, it would be fine, but if not? The previous setback was mostly because he had underestimated his opponent. This time, no matter what, he would not underestimate his opponent. Wherever the azure lightning flashed, the sky seemed to boil. The sound of rolling thunder came from afar, as if a raging tide was sweeping over from afar. Instead, she was praying that Ghost Face Mask did not die. It was certain that he could not beat Lu Tianwen, but as long as he could survive, he would definitely have the qualifications to enter the list of powerhouses. On the stone wall, Tang Tian opened his eyes. How many days are we going to stand guard in the wilderness? Su, who had been acting as if he hadn't heard them all this time, suddenly spoke. Sweat doesn't lie. Tang Tian always remembered it. He didn't know many principles, but he never dared to forget this one. I am Xiao Yu. I am Xiao Yi. Ghost Face Mask's strength had to be re-evaluated. On the stone tiles on the ground, there were many horizontal lines marked with cinnabar. It was Nie Chio's meticulously calculated battle positions. Every battle position was determined after repeated measurements and calculations. The sweat gradually dried. Their bronze-colored skin was like metal. The 64 figures in the field remained motionless, like 64 bronze statues. Nie Chio, who was hidden in the shadows, was like an ancient monk meditating. His gray pupils were dim and without light. If not for the occasional shouts coming from inside, they would have rushed in long ago. A favor from a ranker on the list of powerhouses was definitely the most successful investment the Roland clan had made in all these years. She couldn't help but glance at Victor. She thought to herself, this dead man is quite knowledgeable. He can still think of me at such a critical moment. Is Master Ghost Face Mask all right? Xiao Yao was filled with worry. Master has not moved for a few days. Lu Tianwen is here. We'll know in 2 days. Su Yi had already calmed down from the shock yesterday and regained his usual indifference. Lu Tianwen has suffered a huge loss and will not let it go. Such might cause everyone to be overwhelmed with shock. Inside the valley, Lu Tianwen slowly opened his eyes. At that moment, there was no trace of ruthlessness or insanity in his eyes, only calmness. Is that Lu Tianwen? Is that an expert on the list of powerhouses? Victor glanced at the twin young ladies beside Ben Sin, and clicked his tongue in wonder. Old Black, your eyesight is not bad. Where did you find these two beautiful sisters? Amauri and the rest held onto their broad guillotine blades. All of them closed their eyes and meditated. Their orderly and long breaths converged into one, filling the room like the wind. In the entire Purple Cuckoo City, only Qinjin could be on the list of powerhouses. I don't know. Su Yi replied honestly, no one knows when Lu Tianwen will recover and when he will come back. Perspiration flowed down his cheeks, his entire body looked as though he was pulled out from the water. The mist around him was faintly discernible in the faint light. He was extremely focused. For 3 consecutive days and nights, he had trained in heavy demonic execution countless of times. Qinjin's ambition caused the other families to feel the immense pressure. The Teopiot family was willing to rely on them, but the other families were not. Under the immense pressure, everyone was looking for variables. Amauri stood up, he grabbed the broad guillotine blade and placed it on his shoulder. Whoosh, the gray tiny null flames soared from the blade's body and extended along the gigantic blade's body. Echo Hill Castle. It was definitely not a pleasant thing to be in the wilderness, the rainbow flow, fierce beasts etc., all sorts of dangers with no way to bathe. To the ladies, unless it was absolutely necessary, no one was willing to be in the wilderness. And from what Su Yi said, it was not just for a day. This generation of steel guards? Roland, Su could not help but ask. After living in their hometown for so many years, they naturally knew of the death trials. It was the steel guard's most cruel trial. Roland's face became ugly, but she did not say a word. She knew the importance of the matter. Thinking about her bet, she became happy again. Ghostface Mask was able to fight against Lu Tianwen. As long as Ghostface Mask did not die, the favor was worth a city to the Roland family. No one believed that Ghostface Mask was actually able to fight against such a ferocious man. Mingzhu covered her mouth, her face filled with shock. She had never seen a group of people actually breathing in unison. In that moment, the group of people in front of her seemed to have transformed into a gigantic fierce beast that was conserving its strength. A green figure shot through the air like lightning whistling through the air. Please take care of me, the two of them said at the same time. He stood up, grabbed onto the Thunder Wind spear beside him, and slowly walked out of the valley. In his heart, he had already placed Ghostface Mask and Tang Tian on the same level as him. He was waiting for Lu Tianwen. Chapter 735. But Lu Tianwen was in a frenzy. He wanted to kill Ghostface Mask. He wanted to destroy all of them. Lu Tianwen never thought that Tang Tian would actually be able to change his technique at such a time. All of his attention was focused on the tip of his spear. Caught off guard, he felt a strong force coming from beneath his feet, causing his vision to blur. Before he could react, he was pushed into the sky by the shockwave. He had been bitterly holding on until now. One after another, the wind and lightning balls followed him and floated towards the Echo Hill Castle. They took half a step forward with their left legs at the same time, lowering their center of gravity. The broad guillotine blades rested on their shoulders, their right palms grasping the hilt of the blades firmly, their bodies leaning forward. Everyone's face was drained of blood. He had never seen the wind and thunder crystal spear before, but the transparent spear tip gave him goosebumps. Tang Tian never thought that Lu Tianwen would actually be so crazy and disregard everything. However, there was no point in thinking about that now. An extremely dazzling spear aura lit up in front of him and fiercely collided with his hand blade, severing the heavens. Buzz. He didn't want to think about any techniques or moves. He just wanted to kill them all. Completely humiliated. He had actually been humiliated. The long spear was like a greedy and thirsty beast, constantly devouring the wind and lightning balls. The green light around his body became more and more intense, so intense that even his face and figure could not be seen clearly. Tang Tian came to a realization. It was far better to keep a variation than to use it directly. One more change meant one more leeway, one more choice. In a fierce battle, one more choice and leeway meant one more chance of winning, just like what happened just now. None of you can escape. Blade Devil Transformation. What a pity! Su Yi muttered, a trace of fear surfaced in his eyes. Lu Tianwen laughed maniacally. His mind was no longer clear. He did not care about the consequences of projecting power from his law surface. The power had already exceeded the limit that he could control. He could not see the ghost faces clearly, but he did not care. They were just like ants. Ming Zhu was stunned. Absolutely unforgivable. Boom. Everyone raised their heads and stared at the back of the figure outside the gate. Whoosh! Regiment after regiment of gray tiny null flames soared from the blade and enveloped the blade. Over and over again he was toyed with and humiliated. And when more than 100 of such balls of wind and lightning appeared at the same time, it was no longer fear. They didn't even have the slightest thought to resist. Su Yi and the rest who were watching from afar were all pale white. They had imagined how strong Lu Tianwen was, but they never expected that the martial artist on the list of powerhouses was much stronger than what they had imagined. Lu Tianwen's hair floated up, the wind and thunder around him transformed into balls of wind and thunder. The wind lightning ball was about the size of a bamboo basket. It flashed with dazzling azure lightning and emitted a terrifying aura. Tang Tian slowly pulled back his fist. He had never completely executed the godly fist before. The vast sea of transformation imprints frantically flashed past his heart. The sky was filled with smoke and clouds, the flickering light and passing shadows. The origin chi in his body was being consumed at an astonishing rate. Unforgivable. Shock. There was only shock in her heart. Tang Tian stood up, the origin chi in his body surged, the whistling of the wind and thunder caused his fighting intent to soar. Amauri's eyes blazed with flames. Fundamental Tang, Amauri can finally fight alongside you. He appeared in front of Lu Tianwen. His palm was like a blade, and with a terrifying might he slashed down. Without any nonsense, Tang Tian's body flashed and disappeared. An even more surging rage surged. Lu Tianwen completely went berserk. Lu Tianwen once again felt that he had been played, completely played. He did not think that Tang Tian's last transformation was forced, he only felt that Tang Tian did it intentionally. You are intentionally using the exact same technique as the last time, to bait me into falling for it. Bang bang bang. The long and loud breathing that resembled that of a prehistoric beast suddenly stopped. The 64 statues all came to life at the same time. They opened their eyes at the same time. The broad guillotine blades that were as tall as humans were raised at the same time and placed on their shoulders. Using a hand blade to unleash the heavy demonic execution, compared to using a blade, had an additional transformation. Regarding this transformation, Tang Tian had never thought of how to use it, but in a moment of desperation he actually used it. Extermination? Countless of wind and thunder, like light auras, entered his spear tip. There were no more wind or thunder. The spear tip became transparent like a crystal. The starlight in the sky became smaller and thicker. Lu Tianwen's body was forced back once again. Countless thoughts flashed past his mind. Seems like the opponent has noticed the problem with the blade. But, to think of using a hand blade, it is too absurd. No matter how strong the body is, can it compare to a treasure? An indescribable aura pervaded out. The lupus men became even more excited. They clenched their teeth. The veins on their arms that held onto their blades popped out. The fanatical flames almost burned them into ashes. Fight with the king. Tang Tian felt as though he was standing under a sky full of stars. Every star was a mark of transformation. Behind the door, the Null Division members who were prepared to attack all had their veins popping out. They clenched their teeth to resist the terrifying pressure. Zila. As expected of the 39th ranker on the list of powerhouses, he felt that he was being humiliated. The sequence of ghost face masks attacks was exactly the same as the previous time. Wind and thunder crystal thrust. Every step he took would cause the sky to tremble, the pressure that could destroy the heavens and earth, as though MT Tai was pressing down on him. The smile on Tang Tian's face disappeared. Attack! Every single one of Lu Tianwen's nerves was burning with rage. He felt as though he was going crazy and about to explode. A fly-like man was actually toying with him and humiliating him time and time again. The low growl brought about a heart-palpitating tremor. causing the entire space to tremble. "Ha! All of you will die." The explosion created a circular qi wave that swept out in all directions. Lu Tianwen's hysterical laughter resonated in the sky and could be heard from far away. Why are their fighting intents so intense? They had seen wind and thunder before, but they had never seen wind and thunder congealed into such a huge ball. Such a ball, upon exploding, could directly destroy a mountain peak. Is this the null division? With a roar, Tang Tian once again rushed forward. Tang Tian did not give chase, but instead retreated backwards until he was 10 m away from the stone wall, and then stopped. Tang Tian's eyes flashed with a look of madness, his mouth revealing a sinister smile. Tang Tian did not use his blade, but used his hand to unleash a power that was even stronger than the previous time. Threads of starlight grew from the stars, they converged in different directions, and 10 of them converged into one. The newly formed light continued to grow, and 10 of them converged into one. His spear spun, and a strange suction force enveloped the sky. In the blink of the eye, the spinning spear was like a vortex, and all the basket-sized balls of wind and thunder flew towards his spear. The astonishing qi wave exploded beneath Lu Tianwen's feet. The two of them had been accumulating power for a long time, and the collision was far more intense than the previous time. A sickle-shaped qi wave struck the mountain peak, and the 30 m tall mountain peak was sliced apart like tofu, and the top half of the mountain peak slowly slid down. "Go and die." Seeing Lu Tianwen flying in the sky, Tang Tian secretly wiped off his cold sweat. It was truly too dangerous. He never thought that the problem that had troubled him for the past few days would actually be realized at such a time. His trembling body suddenly stopped, and he suddenly spat out 2 words. His voice that was as gentle as jade was hoarse like smoke at this moment. Lu Tianwen sneered in his heart. Lu Tianwen was completely enraged. He had thought of all sorts of scenarios, but he never thought that the battle would be the same as the previous one. When Lu Tianwen saw Tang Tian, his eyes immediately turned red, his aura suddenly exploded out, and countless of green wind and thunder quickly formed around him. The continuous wind and thunder were formed and extinguished. They were like waves, undulating and undulating. A ball of wind and thunder was absorbed by the spear, causing Lu Tianwen's body to be surrounded by a green wind and thunder aura. There was no sound of the wind, but the transparent spear tip gave Tang Tianwen an unprecedented sense of danger. Without thinking, Tang Tian slashed out with a hand blade that was like an illusion, forcefully turning the blade into a palm, and slapped down at Lu Tianwen's feet. Lu Tianwen only felt a surge of blood rushing to his head. Without thinking, the spear in his hand trembled, and thrust it out. Is this a martial artist on the list of powerhouses? My spear should not taste good either. No, these 100 balls of wind and thunder are enough to blow the entire Purple Cuckoo City into ruins, and the number of people who can survive will not exceed 100. Zzzzzzzzz. The dense air shield was like a bridge floating in the air. He was like a ghost, sweeping forward like lightning, appearing in front of Lu Tianwen in an instant, his hand blade slashing upwards. The battle was extremely fast, to the point that Ming Zhu did not even have time to hide in the castle. She looked at the robust men in a daze. Don't they know what kind of enemy they are facing? Don't they know that the enemy outside only needs one finger to crush them like ants? Everyone knew what Su Yi meant. Ghost Face Mask was dead for sure. No one would be able to survive under the barrage of 100 balls of wind and thunder. Even Roland Su's face was ashen. She knew that she had failed. But strangely, she did not have any regrets. To lose to a powerful martial artist like Lu Tianwen, what regrets would there be? Bang! Behind the door, in the corner, Niechio's face revealed a look of pain. His face was pale white, his body was trembling uncontrollably, his back was drenched in sweat. He was using his extremely sharp senses to monitor the entire battlefield. The two people fighting were much stronger than him. The berserk and chaotic flow of energy in the battlefield leaked out a bit of cold killing intent, and even the changes in the laws in the battlefield caused him to bear a huge burden. Lu Tianwen was extremely aggressive. The wind and thunder contained in his spear was even denser than the previous time, and the power was even more tyrannical. The previous time, Tang Tian was only slightly pushed back, but this time, Tang Tian flew out for a distance of 70 m before stabilizing himself. The extremely dense wind and thunder caused Tang Tian's entire arm to go numb. Tang Tian was not surprised, but happy instead. He circulated his origin force, and the numbness in his arm disappeared. More importantly, from the clash, he could see that using his hand blade to unleash the heavy demonic execution was even more outstanding. His confidence soared. The scene in front of him completely toppled Mingzhu's understanding. Even if it was the Qin family's most direct line of elites, if they knew that there was a martial artist on the list of powerhouses outside, no one would dare to go out, and to be able to escape was already considered loyal. Chapter 736. Under the starry sky, behind Tang Tian, a gigantic figure of a heavenly demon appeared. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, releasing a faint gold light. The golden light feathers slowly flew up to the stars in the sky. Amauri felt his body becoming lighter, and upon hearing Niechio's kill, he felt his entire body trembling. Carrying the door-sized broad guillotine blade, he roared and rushed out. This was the only thought in Amauri's mind. It was a simple thought that could not be any simpler. Amauri's mouth could not produce any sound. The roar in his heart resounded. How can I forever hide behind fundamental Tang? Is it still not enough? The extreme slow and extreme fast speed formed a strong contrast. The origin force that flew out from Tang Tian's body became lesser and lesser. The light beams grew slower and slower. Tang Tian's consciousness became blurry. He felt that his body was empty, and there was nothing left. Fundamental Tang, I have long seen through you. You can't lie to me. Tang Tian was startled. All the distant memories flashed past his eyes like flickering lights. The last 10 light beams, each of them were 30 m thick, they hung down from the sky, growing slower and slower. The heavenly demon statue behind him became dimmer and dimmer. Amauri, who was covered in blood, suddenly raised his head. His sinister face was covered in blood. He was like a wild beast that was on the brink of desperation. Calling for his comrades, he roared, "Come on, Fundamental Tang." The light beams that hung down continued to grow downwards. In the final state, the 10 light beams converged into one, taking root, transforming into a gigantic tree of light, containing all the variations of the fist technique system. It became blurry bit by bit, as though the sound was getting weaker. Amauri's eyes were wide open. He grabbed onto the blade hilt tightly, using all his strength to burn every inch of his flesh and blood. He slowly raised his bent waist. The cracking sounds of his bones sounded out, but he did not seem to hear it. That's it. It was as though he was placed under the stars. He frantically ignited the origin force in his body. The burning origin force floated out from his body. Like petals, they entered the sky full of stars. Although the heavenly demon colossus behind him was no longer releasing golden light, its existence prevented the trees of light that had yet to fully grow from going out of control. Amauri carried the broad guillotine blade, every muscle in his body tensed up, veins popping out. He was like a raging bull, resisting the overwhelming pressure. Lu Tianwen's aura enveloped the entire place. He had already entered a berserk state, and his aura automatically locked onto his target. It would have been fine if Amauri hadn't moved, but once he did, it immediately caused a wisp of qi to lock onto him. Fundamental Tang, let us fight side by side. His trembling left leg slowly left the ground. Every inch he raised required all of his strength. His eyes widened and his face contorted. He used all of the strength in his body. Come, Fundamental Tang. The snow-white light aura shone through the door, causing Niechio's figure to become clearer. His body trembled, blood spurted out from his mouth, and as the blood flew, he used all of his strength to shout, "Kill!" Tang Tian shouted to himself in his heart and punched out. Countered it. That was it. Come on. 100 million into a trillion into 10,000, 10,000 into 1,000, 1,000 into 100, 100 into 10. His mental state had already started to show signs of collapsing, and at that moment he sensed something strange, causing his mind to tremble. A pressure that was many times stronger than before rushed towards Amauri. Amauri, who was covered in blood and struggling, appeared in the corner of Tang Tian's consciousness. This is the sacrificial execution. His trembling left leg felt the ground, and all of his weight instantly pressed onto the ground. Bang! The stone tiles shattered. Bang! The light ball that was like the sun shot out a dazzling light beam, shooting towards Lu Tian, who was like a demon god in the sky. Am I at my limit? Am I going to give up just like that? What kind of joke is this? I am a godlike young lad. Is this the end? Tangnan, come out and fight with me. The multicolored light aura was too dazzling, and instead looked like a white light, causing people to be unable to open their eyes. The strong pressure caused his entire body to sway, as though there was a mountain pressing down on him. He frantically used all of the strength in his body, his legs, his hands, his back, all of the strength that he could use. Bang bang bang. It was as though a sun had bloomed on Tang Tian's right fist. The dazzling light beam continuously entered Tang Tian's right fist. His hysterical laughter continued to refract in the trembling space, and became like the wails of ghosts and howls of wolves. He suddenly raised his head, and sensed something. Sensing the danger, Lu Tianwen regained a trace of clarity in his mind. He roared and thrust it out with the spear in his hand. Outside the stone wall, Tang Tian slowly pulled back his fist. The space around him started to freeze at a speed visible to the naked eye, as though there was a formless frost that was frantically expanding. Come on. So, no matter what, there is no reason to give up, there is no reason to retreat, there is no reason to be a coward. They are what you cherish, what you want to protect, what you want to accompany. Rush forward, you should be at the front. The fist was pulled back extremely slowly, like a tortoise crawling. Compared to the slow fist, the spread of the frozen space was extremely fast, and the law threads that entered Tang Tian's right fist were also extremely fast. Even if you die, you should be at the front. The thunderous footsteps, along with a Maori's beast-like roar, smashed heavily into Tang Tian's consciousness, causing his blurry consciousness to suddenly sober up. His twisted and sinister face was covered in blood. It was extremely terrifying. At the corner of Tang Tian's mouth, a faint smile surfaced, like the warm sunlight. Tang Tian knew that he had reached his limit. This is Master preparing to counterattack. Inside the dazzling white light, 64 black figures that resembled iron towers raised their heavy broad guillotine blades high up in their hands. Suddenly, footsteps sounded out, and when it landed in Tang Tian's ears, it was like thunder. Every muscle on his face was trembling. Perspiration flowed out continuously. Suddenly, dark red blood seeped out from his skin. The red blood mixed with his perspiration and flowed down his face. He screamed and roared in his mind. Come on, fundamental Tang. A burly man covered in blood led 63 iron tower-like men drenched in sweat. Their eyes were wide open in anger, and they roared like thunder. Their muscles bulged, and like 64 ferocious beasts, they crazily charged towards the gate. The pressure on his body increased exponentially, blood seeped out from every part of his skin. He looked like a man made of blood, but a Maori felt an indescribable joy. Every inch of his flesh and blood was burning. The berserk fighting intent was about to devour him. The light beams that stopped growing started to grow again. He is the martial artist that I admire the most, the one with the strongest martial artist's heart, the one who is determined to create his own martial Dao, the one with the perfect fundamental Tang Tian, a godlike man. Every step was like a heavy drum, so dense that it caused people to tremble. A Maori. It was a good feeling to be trusted by everyone, to have high hopes placed on him. It was a good feeling to be together with everyone. It was a good feeling to fight side by side with everyone. Threads of power surged out from the originally withered flesh and blood. Following the transformation of the sacrificial execution, it flowed into Tang Tian's body. Lu Tian, who was enveloped in an intense green light, pressed forward step by step. Every step he took caused the ground to shake and the space to tremble. Everything in his field of vision was trembling intensely. One after another, cracks snaked along the body of the mountain. The sturdy rocks crumbled, and pieces of crushed rocks floated into the sky. The plants and vines silently crumbled into pieces. Niechio was the first to sense it. Under the tyrannical wind and thunder might that could destroy cities, A not considered strong but extremely stable aura was slowly growing. The entire space was trembling, but the space was strangely stable, and it was growing frantically. It was like a soundless whisper floating past his mind. He could not differentiate if it was his whisper or the whisper of the stars in the sky. He felt as though his body had lost all of its strength and slowly floated up. Everything was futile, there was no meaning. He did not dare believe it and was startled. His senses were extremely sharp, so he knew how terrifying Lu Tianwen's attack was, to the point that the entire space around him would collapse. All of the bones in Amauri's body were cracking, his body was trembling intensely, he clenched his teeth tightly, the muscles on his cheeks were trembling, his eyes were bloodshot. Xianxia was at a loss. He had switched from the Leo constellation to the Ursa Major constellation. He was filled with ambition, but he never thought that before he had achieved anything he would die. Is this fate? 30M, 15M. We fight side by side. Xianxia could not think of any counterattack that could cause despair in the face of such an attack. Struggle before death? Kill. The people behind him roared in unison and ran with all their might. Come, fundamental Tang. Amauri. Tang Tian did not have any sorrow in his heart, but instead was extremely calm. That was his conviction, his determination, and he had never seen it so clearly before. Tang Tian's eyes lost their focus and became emotionless. Crack, crack, crack. Come, fundamental Tang. A warm feeling surfaced in his heart. Tang Tian opened his eyes, his vision was blood red. The blood mist that shot out had caused the frozen space around him to be dyed red like glass, bringing with it a bewitching beauty. The light aura on his right fist was like a red glass lampshade. To die in battle for the people that I cherish, the people that I want to protect and accompany, is a form of happiness. All the bones in his body were cracking, all the muscles in his body were trembling, and all the blood in his body was burning. Chi chi chi, a blood mist shot out from Tang Tian's body, but Tang Tian did not feel anything. His fist was not affected at all, it was extremely slow and extremely stable. Xianxia was bitterly enduring Lu Tianwen's terrifying pressure, his cultivation was crippled, and he was only left with his extraordinary perception. His extraordinary perception made him extremely sharp, and also made him endure an even greater pressure than others. In that moment, perspiration flowed out like a fountain, causing Amauri's entire body to be drenched. Without hesitation, he gave it his all, and slashed with all his might. The dazzling light aura illuminated the entire place, causing it to be as bright as snow. For some reason, the heavy demonic executions, sacrificial execution, flashed past Tang Tian's mind. All of the cryptic sentences were lit up like candlelight, and an indescribable enlightenment flowed into Tang Tian's mind. It was not bitter, it was not ruthless, it was not a struggle, it was determination, conviction, and happiness. His footsteps passed through the door and onto the stone wall, one after another, figures soared into the sky. In the sky, the red light aura and the green light aura clashed, creating a clear distinction. Chapter 737. The two young ladies let out a "oh" sound as though they understood, before turning around and flying towards the Echo Hill Castle. They had won. At this moment, Han Bingning was like a sharp and icy cold sword. Her entire person revealed her ability and emitted a piercingly cold sword intent, completely different from her previous restrained self. After being injured last time, she had been in seclusion. Just now, when everyone was fighting with their lives on the line, her heart was filled with unwillingness and regret. At this time, she was actually unable to fight shoulder to shoulder with everyone. She didn't expect to come out of seclusion early. They actually killed Lu Tianwen? Victor's voice sounded as though he was talking in his sleep. Mingzhu was stunned. It was not only her, the entire Echo Hill Castle had sunk into a strange silence. Sometimes, some things had to be retreated to the starting point, only then would one be able to see their original intentions at that time. His face was covered in blood, but his eyes didn't have the slightest bit of violence or madness. There was only the seriousness and determination of a simple and honest youth. Come on to Maori. Everyone quietened down. They were shocked by Victor's suggestion. Benson did not explain further and said, "Go. They've just finished a great battle and are short of manpower. You guys should go earlier and you'll be able to help." A breath was stuck in his chest, but he didn't have the chance to breathe. The spear in his hand did not transmit any slashing force. Although it was just one slash, the Null Division members' physical strength were all exhausted. They sat on the ground and gasped for breath. What's going on? Benson stood up. "Count me in." The two young ladies were still in a daze and did not understand, but they had been raised by Benson since they were young and listened to everything he said. The blood on his face gradually turned pale. Normally, he wouldn't even care about a slash of this level. But at this time, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. The continuous slashes didn't give him the slightest chance to catch his breath. His arms were sore and limp. The faces of the twin sisters were pale, and they seemed to be in a trance. Hiss, her figure flashed, and in the next moment, she appeared beside a Maori and pulled a Maori back. He retreated step by step towards the door, each step leaving a bright red footprint. Everyone looked at each other and burst out laughing. Su Ye's mutter struck everyone's hearts. "I did it. I did it. Did I do it just now?" His face contorted and his body trembled, but he gritted his teeth and held on. She also secretly made up her mind that if she could help Victor, she would help him as well. She sighed in her heart. She also understood that the reason why Victor looked for her was to lay a foreshadowing in advance. He hoped that Ghost Face Mask would not make things difficult for the T-Opiate family for the sake of his advice. Looking at everyone's hesitant expression, Victor's face flushed red and he said agitatedly, "Don't tell me you still want to leave some leeway? Will Qingjin give us any leeway? If he knows that you gave the prisoners to Ghost Face Mask, and that Benson gave the steel guards to Han Bingning, he will definitely not let us off. We don't stand a chance against the experts on the list of combat power. Only Ghost Face Mask can deal with Qingjin." She knew that she had already lost this time. Su Yi revealed a bitter smile. "This time, we have boarded the pirate ship." The two ladies looked at Benson blankly. Su was the calmest. She had lost her favor the earliest, and the risk she had to take was the greatest. Naturally, it wasn't something that these bets could compare to. She glanced at Victor, who had a bitter look on his face. "So you need not worry, as long as I send the Null Division prisoners over, it will naturally be a favor." The broad guillotine blade hung by his side. Warm, sticky blood slid down the blade and dripped onto the ground. He had already lost count of how many times he had been slashed. He had never given up. Come on, Maori. At this time, if anyone still did not know that Ghost Face Mask was an extremely thick thigh, then they would truly be stupid. Su was in a daze. The entire process was like a dream. 65 Null Division prisoners was definitely not a small number, and such a huge gamble. To the Roland family, it would be difficult for them to make a second time. If it wasn't for the fact that she had been the head of the family for many years and had great prestige, she wouldn't even have the power to make such a decision. Tang Tian, who was floating in the air, finally relaxed. His vision turned black, and he fell down. Ben Sen had given the two ladies to Han Bingning. It was extremely ingenious. Han Bingning was previously in trouble in the Mu residence, and that was the reason. Furthermore, no one knew of the relationship between Han Bingning and Ghost Face Mask, and if they gave the ladies to Ghost Face Mask, it would anger Han Bingning, and that would be bad. If they were given to Han Bingning, there would be no hidden danger. Furthermore, even if Han Bingning was Ghost Face Mask's subordinate, he would be an important subordinate. If they could not hug Ghost Face Mask's thigh, hugging Han Bingning's thigh would be a good choice. Lu Tianwen was in a daze. He still did not understand how his technique was broken. The entire Law Surface's power was projected onto his body, unless the opponent had gained enlightenment on a law domain. If not, they would definitely not be able to break his technique. Clang, 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 clang. Victor's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. "Once we choose Ghost Face Mask, we will fall out with Qingjin. Do you think Qingjin will let us go? Then why don't we go all the way? While Qingjin is not around, We will go to the Qin family and save the Null Division prisoners. With the Null Division, Ghost Face Mask will become even stronger, and our contributions will be even greater. Even if Qin Jin returns, what can he do? He returned to the place he had just started from. He passed through the door, crossed the light, stepped onto the stone wall, and with all his strength, he threw himself out. He suddenly realized that the trembling of the space around him had disappeared, the violent wind and thunder had disappeared, the power projected by the law surface had actually disappeared without a trace. Cold sweat trickled down his face. But who would have thought that not only was Ghost Face Mask not killed by Lu Tianwen, he even killed Lu Tianwen. He originally thought that he had lost everything, but he suddenly struck the jackpot. Such a huge rise and fall, even for Roland Su who had profound martial arts, he felt as though he was in a dream. He laid paralyzed on the ground without even the strength to move a finger. Benson suddenly spoke out, "Xiao Yu, Xiao Yi." No! Benson was the first to recover from the shock. He did not have anything in his heart and only wanted to bring the two young ladies to see the world, but he never expected to witness such a shocking battle. Seeing Lu Tianwen getting bigger and bigger, a Maori roared in his heart, all of the muscles in his body exploded out, he dragged the broad guillotine blade by his side, and fiercely slashed upwards. Clang clang clang. A terrifying large blade slashed onto the Thunder Wind spear. The astonishing power caused Lu Tianwen's palm to heat up, he almost lost control of the spear, and it flew out of his hands. How can Ghost Face Mask still have strength left? This blade was obviously the technique that Ghost Face Mask had used previously. When the light aura blossomed from the spear tip, Lu Tianwen's vision turned white, but his consciousness immediately woke up. Impossible! The group of people who were spectating from afar heard the cheers from Echo Hill Castle. All of their expressions were filled with shock and disbelief. Impossible! How could Lu Tianwen's technique be broken? Su Yi looked as though he was about to go crazy. Out of the few of them, he was the strongest, and thus the impact he received was the strongest. The rest of them were not any better than him. They definitely think that it's fake news. Ben Sen, who was in a good mood, said something cold and humorous. A Maori who was the first to slash borrowed the rebound force from the spear body and landed back at the door. Seeing his brothers pouncing towards Lu Tianwen like a tide, he laughed. His face that was covered in blood revealed his eerie white teeth. Executing the heavens. The continuous slashes brought forth the sound of the wind, slashing onto his spear like a torrential storm, causing his body to tremble like a sieve. His arm was so sore that it was almost numb. He didn't dare to move an inch. Right now, he was relying on this breath to force himself to hold on. If he made the slightest movement, this breath would leak, and that would be the end of him. Lu Tianwen's eyes were filled with fear. A dark red line of blood flowed along the center of his body and split his body into two. Qi, blood spurted out. The fear in Lu Tianwen's eyes became denser and denser. It could be said that Ben Sen had used the trump card in his hands to its limit, causing the others to look at him in a different light. Before they could react, the piercing white light and the sound of the wind assaulted their faces. All of you do not need to return to the residence. Benson said, Miss Han has suffered in Mu for so many days, and Miss has always felt guilty. All of you will go to Echo Hill Castle now, and follow Miss Han from now on, and be her assistants. Serve Miss Han like how you serve Mississippi. Roland Su also stood up. I will go as well. Lu Tianwen's technique was the strongest technique of his grade. How could it be broken? The Teopiot family is truly foolish. Victor suddenly said, What do you guys think, if we were to ambush the Qin family at this time? Lu Tianwen, who was bitterly holding on, in his blurry vision, a bright red figure suddenly rushed in front of him like an enraged bull. Su Yi suddenly laughed. I am truly curious, when this news spreads back to the Lu family, to Qin Jin's ears, what kind of expression will they have? Once Ghost Face Mask gathered the Null Division, he would definitely sweep through the Sin domain, and no one would be able to stop him. He dragged the broad guillotine blade and started to run, facing the stone castle's door, facing the sky outside, facing the light of battle, facing the young man's dreams and beliefs. He ran with all his might, listening to the wind whistling past his ears, smelling the smell of blood, the wounds all over his body burning. Every step he took was a roar to the world. Lu Tianwen's berserk performance made her understand that the situation was hopeless, and even she did not believe that ghost face mask could hold on. He stared blankly at the sky. His face was filled with disbelief. The others regained their senses. They did not expect for Benson to be the first to attack, and scolded in their hearts, "Black Devil looks like a boorish man, but he's smarter than a ghost." He brought his juniors to broaden their horizons, and now he gave the steel guards to Han Bingning. It was truly a powerful move. Amauri was unable to restrain himself, and flew out. The blade had exhausted his last bit of strength. He rolled along the hill like a rock, and only stopped when he was blocked by a piece of rock. A sword concept soared into the sky, and in the next moment, an ice mountain-like figure appeared like lightning, grabbing onto Tang Tian. It was actually Han Bingning, who had just come out of closed-door training. Although Ghost Face Mask had ganged up on Lu Tianwen, but with his strength, even if he was not as strong as Lu Tianwen, the difference was extremely small. Furthermore, the fighting strength that the Null Division prisoners had displayed caused everyone to be shocked. After a long while, the sky shook with cheers. Almost subconsciously, Lu Tianwen placed the Thunderwind Spear in front of his chest. Chapter 738. Sima Xiangshan was shocked, but he was extremely shrewd, and maintained a fake smile on his face. Could it be that Scorpio King has some news? Tang Tian was not immersed in the joy of victory. He had too many realizations that needed to be sorted out. At the last moment, he had gained enlightenment on the sacrificial execution, and the demonic figure appeared in his body, causing the might of his fist to increase. With regards to things related to battles, Tang Tian had always had an extremely sharp intuition. He had a faint feeling that the demonic figure that was born from the heavy demonic execution was much more valuable than the heavy demonic execution. Save ourselves. Sima Xiangshan waved his hands at Sima Xiao, and said sinisterly, "We are all boorish people, and are not proficient in such things. We never expected to meet you. You are an expert. Help us plan something." The more Sima Xiangshan heard, the more shocked he became. He is truly sinister. He had to admit that it was a brilliant plan. The entire plan was flawless. Sima Xiao had borrowed the power of others to sow dissension, and used it to the extreme. Sima Xiangshan believed that as long as the plan was carried out, Bright Light City would descend into chaos. No one would have thought that the ones plotting in the dark would actually be the two of them. They were a group of fanatical fighters. The pitiful Ping Xiaoshan had started a large-scale special training. It was a true large-scale special training. Other than Tang Tian, all the Null Division members were crying piteously for food. The two of them had the difference between heaven and earth. If not for Sima Xiangshan having the same surname as him, he would not even pay attention to such a small figure. This unique law did not require him to use the power of the physique, but it was unable to materialize, and was unable to project power to him. Upon enlightenment, it became a law surface, and was like a formless net that floated around Niechio's body. Bright Light City. Qingjin sent the guests off with a smile. He had a tall stature with a skinny face and a stern gaze, but when he smiled, it made people feel as though they were bathing in the spring wind. Everyone knew that time was precious, and no one wasted it. Battles were the same as life. They had to fight against time, fight against life and death, fight against the enemy, fight against yourself. Maybe you will never truly win, but if you do not fight, you will not even have the qualifications to call yourself a loser. Because only those who lose in battle are losers. What was even more surprising was that his mental state had a breakthrough. His aura had become even more stable, and his originally wild temperament had actually become restrained and steady. Because of the breakthrough in his mental state, the third move of the heavy demonic execution, Devil Eye Slash, was surprisingly easy for him to learn. Thinking of this, a cold smile appeared on Qingjin's face. The Null Division prisoners were famous for being arrogant and untamed, and up till now, other than a few who voluntarily surrendered to them, no one else had been tamed. Since we want to play, then let's play bigger. Sima Xiao laughed. His smile was as harmless as ever, and spoke of his plan. Qin Zizhen was dead, the archer unit was destroyed, Wei Han and Mu Zhe were dead, the Shui family had sided with Ghost Face Mask and escaped to Echo Hill Castle. All of these news caused his face to become extremely gloomy. Ghost Face Mask's strength far exceeded his expectations. Sima Xiao chuckled. You think that Tang Tian will die? Your danger has never been your martial strength. Sima Xiangshan laughed sinisterly. Sima Xiao had borrowed the power of the clan union to ascend to the Scorpio King's position, and with his schemes, Sima Xiangshan knew the disparity between him and the other party. He knew that it was time for him to perform. If he was not of any use and had no value, he even suspected that Sima Xiangshan would kill him. Sima Xiao laughed. You don't have to test me. I have your information. You, Amauri, Han Bingning and Liang Qiu, all of you came out from Star Wind City with Tang Tian. Other people might betray Tang Tian, but the few of you will never do so. He licked his lips. This period of time was extremely important to them. As long as they could digest it, their overall strength would have a qualitative leap. But he was a realistic person, and knew that if he were to fuss about such small details and act pretentious, it would be seeking his own death. As an ambitious and ruthless person, his ability to judge the situation was always more outstanding than ordinary people. Sima Xiao laughed. He knew that his words had an effect. Just at that moment, there was a commotion outside. How can the Scorpio King who can reach such a stage be an ordinary person? He quickly found the relevant information on Sima Xiangshan. Since Lu Tianwen had made a move, he could relax and focus on communicating with the other families. The Lu family did not mind him buying the Null Division prisoners from the other families in Galloping Horse City. If not, he would not have the chance. He also knew that the Lu family's focus was on the Shui residence, and he knew what the Lu family saw in the Shui residence. But after so many years, he had never found out the secret from the Shui residence, so he might as well sell it to the Lu family. Who won't die? Sima Xiangshan declined to comment. Sima Xiangshan scoffed. That's right, seems like having the same surname has some advantages. To be able to let Scorpio King remember me, it is truly an honor. The Qin family had suffered heavy losses, and if not for the Lu family sending out Lu Tianwen, Qinzhen would have long returned to Purple Cuckoo City. Crazy Tang is not dead, Sima Xiangshan suddenly said. I never thought that we would meet in such a manner. Sima Xiao was filled with emotions. He revealed a look of contemplation. I remember, you are called Sima Xiangshan? At that time, that price is not bad, and can even attract the Lu family's attention. Sima Xiangshan squinted his eyes. Bright Light City had 700 Null Division members. Sima Xiao knew that he was ultimately not a person of the Ursa Major constellation, and it would be extremely difficult to gain their trust, and the more he beat around the bush, the harder it would be for them to trust him. He directly revealed his cards. I am the Scorpio King, and do not wish to stay in this godforsaken place to be a servant. On this point, we both agree. I never thought that I would be able to break out of Sin Domain by myself. Without Tang Tian, none of us will be able to leave this place. And I have lost all of my strength. What threat do I pose to you all? And the other person who had gained the most was Nye Qiu. His senses far surpassed ordinary people, and even under Lu Tianwen's astonishing pressure, he was still able to observe the entire place like a spiderweb. His final roar caused him to suffer internal injuries, but it also caused his mental state to undergo a qualitative change. What no one expected was that he had gained enlightenment on a law, an extremely unique law, yin-yang formation. Han Bingning needed time to restrain the sword concept that she had released, and although she had revealed her abilities, she was still far from being able to control it. But the other families were not fools. Everyone knew the value of the Null Division prisoners, and without paying the price, it was impossible to buy them. Every negotiation was extremely difficult, but Qinzhen still had a huge harvest. Clang clang, Qinzhen's face turned pale white. The teacup in his hand fell to the ground. He had successfully negotiated with the three families, although he had to pay a price, and almost emptied out the Qin family's wealth, but to Qinzhen, it was worth it. Sima Xiao did not know whether to laugh or cry. It had been a long time since someone dared to speak to him in such a frivolous tone. The blood in Amaury's body had even seeped out from his skin, showing how much burden he was enduring. His body was extremely tyrannical, and the burden was like the fiercest furnace fire, fiercely tempering his body. His tiny null flames had also completely transformed into null flames, igniting his primordial fire origin. Sima Xiao could not help but size up the gloomy man in front of him. To be able to speak so confidently in front of him without revealing anything. He was not famous, but he was not to be underestimated. I never thought that any one of Tang Tian's subordinates would be so powerful. Sima Xianxia glanced at him. I can't tell you that. Before he could finish, he fell to the ground, his face was as white as paper, and he was no longer breathing. Sima Xiao was not angry, but continued to pursue. What plans do you guys have? Nothing much. Sima Xianxia said sinisterly. A wise man submits to circumstances. He had to seize the time. If the Lu family went back on their words, he would not be able to buy the Null Division prisoners from the other families, and that was the reason why he had not returned yet. Everyone thought that the Qin family did not have the ability to digest the Null Division prisoners, and would only make them explode. When he returned, the smile on his face disappeared, and all the servants and maids around him did not dare to breathe. More importantly, Nye Qiu saw hope in the formation, and to a military general, there was nothing that could make him more ecstatic. Zhong Jingyan Mei with his tattered clothes and body full of injuries stumbled in. Master, the four families have joined hands to attack. There was an absolute difference between a veteran and a new recruit. Furthermore, after going through such a terrifying and difficult life and death battle, everyone's mental state had undergone an earth-shattering change. Sima Xiao was surprised. How can there be a Scorpio King now? We are just lowly prisoners. I am very curious, how did you gain the trust of the Mo family? And all of this required him to calm down and comprehend. So the first thing Tang Tian did when he woke up was to give the order to close down Echo Hill Castle. In this period of time, he had gained the trust of the Li family, and was extremely familiar with the situation in Bright Light City. He was extremely familiar with how to fish in troubled waters, and was extremely proficient in it. If he was alone, it would be difficult for him, but with Sima Xianxia's cooperation, the situation would be completely different. The Li family behind him, and the Mo family behind Sima Xianxia, were the top families in Bright Light City. Sima Xiao was roused. Of course, I never thought that he would die so easily. Where is he now? Nye Qiu's senses were originally extremely sharp, and had become even more terrifying. Many people were secretly laughing at him, thinking that he would not be able to digest the Null Division prisoners even though he was frantically buying them. It was not only him, everyone in the Null Division had benefited greatly from the battle. Sima Xianxia squinted his eyes, his heart trembled. He never thought that a small figure like him would actually be so well understood by Sima Xiao, but his expression did not change. This is not a betrayal. Who knows if he is already dead? I can't possibly be buried with him. Without knowing if he is alive or dead, you are already relying on him, aren't you being too anxious? Sima Xiao spoke with a trace of ridicule, and suddenly asked, What rumors did you hear? The other members of the Null Division had also received different degrees of tempering. None of them retreated, and faced the light aura to fight to the death, allowing them to improve greatly. In the past, the Null Division was just an experimental unit, and had never experienced a true battle. No one knew that he had special methods to make the prisoners obedient, and he was not worried about taming them. He did not even touch any of the prisoners. He wanted to give everyone a false impression that he was gambling, a gamble that did not care about the consequences. Only by doing that would others think that he was a fool, and sell the prisoners to him. Chapter 739. A look of ridicule surfaced on Lu Xingxiang's face. He had seen Qinzhen jumping up and down for the past few days. He could tell with one look that Qinzhen was ambitious. Although he did not stop Qinzhen, but he looked down on him. The Qin family's foundation was too lacking compared to the Lu family, and the Lu family would not be so flamboyant, but Qinzhen was overestimating himself. Pieces of transparent sword aura exuded a piercingly cold chill, and the chill continued to surge in the room. Gradually, the sword auras started to crumble. The large sword auras turned into small sword auras, which then became the size of a fingernail and continued to crumble until they became as fine as sand. Tang Tian once again congealed the demon figure, but this time he placed all of his attention on the dark blue mark on his heart. The dark blue mark flashed with a bewitching blue light, and the demon figure shattered. The Qin family was ambushed? That dark blue nomological brand was actually able to burrow into his body when he punched. Because it had been fine previously, other than the dark blue imprint on Tang Tian's heart, there were no other effects, so Tang Tian did not mind it. Although Lu Tianwen's killing intent was too heavy, but with his strength, the number of people who could kill him could be counted with one's fingers. Furthermore, he had the Lu family as his backing. The families of the Purple Cuckoo City dared to ambush the Qin family, but would they dare to make a move on the Lu family? It was not only a Maori who wanted to learn, all of the Null Division members wanted to learn. He then thought about Qin Zizhen's arrow when they were rushing out of the city gates. Tang Tian, who did not believe it, tried again and again, but the demon figure would shatter every time. Lu Xianxia shook his head and threw the matter to the back of his mind. If not for his enlightenment on the demon figure, Tang Tian's fist would not have been able to continue. Different from the others who were advancing smoothly, Tang Tian met with trouble. The closer it was to him, the more stable the light spot became, and the more congealed the gray lines. The ice became thicker, and the pain increased, as though it was being tortured. He adjusted the origin force in his body, and struck the dark blue imprint. At the start, the imprint did not have any changes, and was as harmless as usual. But when Tang Tian continued to increase his origin force, the imprint started to change. This was the foundation. This was also the reason why Lu Xianxia did not think much of Qinzhen. He felt that Qinzhen's ambitions surpassed his own strength. Han Bingning did not make a sound. Her whole body was trembling. She kept her lips tightly shut and did not make a sound. During the battle with Lu Tianwen, she was recuperating and in closed-door training, and was unable to make it in time, causing her to be extremely vexed. Tang Tian's invention, the air shield, did not require the use of any laws or energy, but only required sufficient physical strength. Learning the air shield meant that they would be able to fly in the sky. This was very important to them, and it could also make them more agile. Just a moment ago, Tang Tian felt a wisp of extreme Yin energy enter Tang Tian's heart from the patch. Tang Tian felt as if he had been struck by a heavy blow, and the source energy in his body became chaotic. After adjusting his breathing for more than 10 minutes, Tang Tian finally recovered. He began to grope. Yes. The butler smiled. As a military general from Heaven's Road, Niechio's control aura was extremely outstanding. Although he could not see, but he was extremely sensitive to the undulations of energy, and that allowed him to be extremely meticulous in his control aura. Humph, who knows where he ran off to? Lu Xianxia said unhappily, he's not even working properly. Just that, why didn't the demon figure that I condensed last time shatter? Lu Xianxia had doted on his younger brother since young. He was different from Lu Xianxia, who was mature. Lu Tianwen had always been arrogant and untamed since young. His actions were preposterous, and if he did not agree with him, he would start a fight, and had stirred up a lot of trouble. Although Lu Tianwen was not very obedient, but his talent was extremely high. Lu Xianxia had said more than once that if not for Heaven's Inquisition being too late, he would definitely not be ranked 39th on the list of powerhouses. The powerful demon figure was actually affected, causing Tang Tian to pay attention to the inky blue law imprint. It lit up with a faint blue light, and on its heart was a glowing blue patch, which made it look extremely strange. There was no need to doubt the power of the demon figure, and Tang Tian guessed that the final slash of the heavy demonic execution, demonic phaseless execution, should be related to the demon figure. With the previous experience, Tang Tian quickly congealed the demon figure, but the demon figure that was just formed was actually like a fragile ceramic statue and shattered. On the nearest light spot, there was a Null Division member who was carefully sensing the undulations coming from the Yin threads. It was the undulations of laws, and Niechio realized that the Yin threads were extremely sensitive to the undulations of laws. Because of the Null Division members' tiny null flames, they were able to grasp the law threads very quickly. Han Bingning sat cross-legged in the quiet room. The air in the room was extremely cold, the ground and all four walls were covered in frost. Around Han Bingning, there were many sword concepts that formed a vortex that revolved around her. In truth, killing Lu Tianwen was a fluke that could not be replicated. If they were to do it again, the probability of them failing far exceeded the probability of them winning. The butler did not reply, as he was not in a position to do so. A look of ruthlessness flashed past Tang Tian's eyes. Even if he had to carve out a piece of flesh from his heart, he wanted to remove the plaque. As for the Null Division members, they were currently using their laws to temper their bodies. As long as they had enough power of the physique, they could learn the second technique of the heavy demonic execution. After trying out the power of the first technique, everyone was filled with anticipation for the second technique. The fine ice grains wrapped around Han Bingning's body, slowly squirming. Her sword was released unexpectedly and was difficult to control, so she decided to use the sword concept to temper her body. Everyone could clearly feel the improvement in their strength, and that made them even more excited. Cooperating with Nie Qiu and not affecting their training, they naturally let him do as he pleased. In the field, the Null Division members were all seated cross-legged, all of their bodies releasing tiny null flames. Han Bingning endured the pain without making a sound. The process of tempering her body was always accompanied by pain. Not only did she not stop, she continued to release her sword concepts. The shattered sword concepts were added into the ice grains. Lu Xianxia had an ordinary appearance, like an old farmer, and the clothes he wore were extremely simple. Ever since he ascended to the position of patriarch, the Lu family's frugality immediately flourished, and in the entire family, only Lu Tianwen continued to be extravagant, causing Lu Xianxia to be helpless. The demonic figure appeared once again, but very quickly, it shattered. Whirlpool Sword Storm. The ice-cold and dense sword concepts slowly but firmly tempered her flesh and her willpower, but she was fearless. The blue light became brighter and brighter, and just as the blue light was about to waver, Tang Tian suddenly groaned, his face pale white. Furthermore, he needed to absorb a certain amount of life origin essence every day. Absorbing life origin essence was easy, but digesting it was not so easy. As long as he continued to brandish his broad guillotine blade, he would continue to train in the heavy demonic execution. The battle had allowed them to feel the cruelty of battles, but it also gave them hope. Even if they were not as strong as Lu Tianwen, but their attacks were still effective, they were not ants. Inside the Echo Hill Castle, there was no longer any joy of victory. Everyone was extremely nervous and busy. Even after killing Lu Tianwen, they were still far from victory. Qin Zhen and Lu Xianxia, the two martial artists on the list of powerhouses, caused everyone to feel a heavy pressure. She wanted to ignite her primordial fire origin. Tang Tian thought that he had done something wrong, and after adjusting his breathing, he once again did the same thing. Bang! The dazzling blue light almost shot out of his body, causing Tang Tian's mind to tremble. Compared to Tang Tian, the demonic execution was extremely important, and Tang Tian was unable to tolerate the existence of such a terrifying hidden danger in his body. Tang Tian no longer had any thoughts of luck. The demonic execution was extremely sinister, and if he did not get rid of it, there would be endless troubles in the future. He took a deep breath, and started to adjust the origin force in his body, and unceasingly struck the patch. A Maori who had ignited his primordial fire origin meant that he had entered a higher realm, but it also brought with it problems. He needed to adapt to a brand new body, and the usage of origin force and the power of the physique were vastly different. Not yet. The butler laughed. Heavy demonic execution and air shield, that was the basic configuration. In the center, Nie Qiu sat cross-legged. In his empty vision, there were many gray lines and many bright spots. The gray lines represented yin, while the bright spots represented yang. Until now. Even so, the two list of powerhouses martial artists of the Lu family were enough to look down on everyone. Other than that, he still needed to train in the air shield. Is there any news from Heaven's Inquisition? Lu Xianxia asked casually. She also knew that if she was not strong enough, even if she could participate in the battle, she would only be a burden. Thinking about how the one to end Lu Tianwen was actually a Maori, the barbaric bull, she became even more unresigned. Now, what exactly is the ink blue law imprint? Tang Tian was extremely curious. To be able to interfere with the demonic figure's laws, its grade was definitely not low. Tang Tian thought about it, but there was no result, so Tang Tian decided to use the simplest method to test it out. The surging origin force in his body was like a torrent, crashing into the patch. Yes, it is said that the other 4 families of the Purple Cuckoo City joined hands and suddenly launched an attack on the Qin family, and the Qin family was completely destroyed. The butler reported respectfully, Zhong Zhengyan may manage to escape, but was heavily injured. When he saw Qin Jin, he only said one sentence before dying. He started to adjust his breathing, allowing himself to enter his optimal state. In this battle, he had also reaped huge rewards. Although the God Fist was not completed, but it was not far from completion. The most important thing was that he had gained enlightenment on the demonic figure from the sacrificial execution. The undulations of the Yin lines immediately made him think about the control aura. Qin Zhen is now alone. Lu Shengxiang's words carried a trace of schadenfreude. Only by becoming stronger can I fight alongside Tang Tian. The bone-piercing cold intent and the biting cold sword concept were like countless of small knives slicing across. Lu Shengxiang was not worried about Lu Tianwen's safety, nor was he worried about whether the Shui family would succeed. After an hour, he opened his eyes and took a deep breath. The origin force in his entire body started to revolve. He did not immediately attack the patch, but allowed the origin force to accumulate in his body. The origin force surged, more and more, and close to 80% of the origin force in Tang Tian's body was all gathered by him. At that moment, everyone was extremely excited and started to train frantically. Tang Tian felt that he was not in the wrong. He calmed himself down and tried a few more times, and finally found the reason. The thing that destroyed the demonic figure was actually the ink blue patch at his heart. Chapter 740. The blue light shot out from Tang Tian's body. His blood vessels, muscles, bones, all of them were translucent and could be seen clearly. More importantly, the Demon Six Seals was practically made for Tang Tian, who was proficient in close combat. Tang Tian suddenly thought about the fist that he used to fight against Lu Tianwen, but the demon figure did not shatter. Tang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it was a law, it would be easy. Releasing the light aura from his hands, Tang Tian carefully maintained the demon figure, and what made him heave a sigh of relief was that the demon figure did not shatter. The blue flames and the sound mist, in an environment with origin force, was actually able to shatter the demon figure, showing that its grade was definitely not low. Laws. His current life was filled with danger, and he could die anytime, but it was still intense and fulfilling. And Tang Tian did not have any suspicions towards him because he was from the Leo constellation, but instead he trusted him, which was the respect and trust that a military general yearned for the most. Nie Qiu raised his head. He was extremely shocked. What made Tang Tian puzzled was that the blue flames that contained the mist gave him a strange feeling. Tang Tian could sense an aura similar to the demon figure from them. Suddenly he sensed something, and turned to look at the place where Han Bingning was in closed-door training. He rejoiced in his heart, rejoicing at his choice. The whispering song was faintly discernible, causing the world around Tang Tian to sway along with the song. The light aura converging on Tang Tian's right fist became even more intense. It was extremely dazzling. The surging origin force continued to be consumed. Until the origin force was completely exhausted, Tang Tian continued to use his fist. Every time he fought, his strength would become stronger. A gentle whispering song quietly came out from the dazzling blue light, causing Tang Tian's expression to become absent-minded. After experiencing the initial difficulty, Tang Tian finally sensed a trace of law aura. The trace of law aura was extremely concealed, hidden within the blue light and the song. If not for Tang Tian being on high alert and being extremely focused, he would not have sensed it. Tang Tian's heart sank. His God Fist was able to attract the law threads in the surrounding space, but was actually unable to attract the strand of law. A wisp of demonic blue flame quietly burned within Tang Tian's body. Inside the transparent blue flame, there was a wisp of mist that gathered and scattered. The song came from that wisp of mist. But at that moment, it was abnormally quiet, trembling in front of the heavenly demon form. But once he entered the state of battle, the simple and unadorned Tang Tian seemed to have become a different person. He had an extraordinarily sharp intuition towards battle, an almost obsessive pursuit of victory, and a will that was stronger than steel. No matter how strong his opponent was, he was filled with fearlessness and would never retreat. Gaining enlightenment in battle was as common as eating a meal. The heavenly demon avatar returned to its calm state. His potential seemed to be endless. No matter how much danger he faced, no matter how powerful his enemies were, it was only to let the potential buried deep within his body see the light of day again. Almost as soon as Tang Tian willed it, the sky demon form's arms suddenly reached out to the blue flames, as if it was picking up a flower. Tang Tian's mind shook, the gigantic heavenly demon form surfaced behind him. Compared to the previous time, the heavenly demon form was even more congealed. It had 3 heads and 6 arms. Other than the face being blurry, the 6 arms were extremely clear. Tang Tian's mind shook. Could it be that the red-eyed golem has some sort of relationship with the heavenly demon form? He was extremely sensitive to auras. The master's training room released an astonishing aura, which was exactly the same as the battle with Lu Tianwen. He initially thought that the master was practicing his fist again, but he never expected that after a few breaths of time, the vast aura would suddenly change, as though a sea of mist was churning, changing unpredictably. Tang Tian forced himself to calm down. The dazzling blue light in his body caused him to be unable to see anything. He closed his eyes and calmed down. The song would disappear and reappear, and in the next moment, Tang Tian's nose was dripping with perspiration. The song was extremely weird, as though it could enter one's heart, and no matter how careful Tang Tian was, there was no effect. The golem's 5 gestures. No, more accurately, it should be called the heavenly demon's 6 seals. Tang Tian's attention landed on the heavenly demon form's palms. The 6 palms all formed different hand seals. It was not that he had become Tang Tian's subordinate, but he had a high opinion of his superior. If one looked at him normally, Tang Tian would not be able to see anything special about him. He would be ordinary and not outstanding at all. Other than being diligent and able to make people sigh in admiration, but that was all. Xianxia could not help but laugh bitterly. In the past, when he was in Leo constellation, his group of colleagues loved to research on the general situation of Heaven's Road, and Ursa major constellations Tang Tian naturally became everyone's research target. The godlike young lad was a miracle. He was like an undying cockroach. Every time he met danger, not only would he be able to turn danger into safety, he would often borrow the momentum to improve. The blue flames entered the heavenly demon form's fingers and disappeared. In the blink of the eye, the heavenly demon form's hands had 2 objects. One was a blue flame that slowly floated, the other was a strand of mist. Like a swordfish, it danced along the hand seals. Xianxia's own talent was outstanding, although he was born blind, but he was still able to distinguish himself from the other Leo constellation. His talent was unquestionable. Since young, he had been in the circle of geniuses, and the outstanding geniuses around him would sometimes cause people to feel a sense of defeat. What laws are these? Tang Tian was enlightened. Such strange laws required the help of origin force. Without origin force, it was like a rootless duckweed, and was completely useless. In the end, everyone came up with 2 conclusions. One was that he was extremely scheming, and was proficient in borrowing power to fight, and the other was that Tang Tian had outstanding talent. The heavenly demon's 6 seals, it was extremely profound and profound, it was extremely profound, his state of mind was completely attracted by it, and he was immersed in it. Xianxia slowly understood that Tang Tian was completely immersed in battle. It was something he had never seen before. Tang Tian shook his head. He did not want to think about it. The world was huge, there were all sorts of strange things, and it was normal for there to be techniques that he did not know. Although the heavenly demon 6 seals and the heavy demonic execution had the same origin, but they were completely different. The heavy demonic execution's power was extremely ferocious, but its variations were concise, and the most important thing was its imposing manner. The heavenly demon's 6 seals had endless variations, and was able to make up for the weakness of the heavy demonic execution. Although the zero-energy body allowed him to be extremely close to laws, but in terms of enlightenment on laws, it was difficult for him. Other than his comprehension on spatial law threads, he did not have any clue on law surfaces. The heavenly demon form was comprehended by Tang Tian from the heavy demonic execution, and if one were to say that the incomplete God Fist was the highest grade martial technique that Tang Tian had comprehended, then the heavenly demon form would definitely be ranked second. Furthermore, it had immense potential, and Tang Tian suspected that after gaining enlightenment on the demonic formless, its might would definitely not be weaker than the God Fist. But Nie Qiu felt that none of them could compare to Tang Tian. Nie Qiu laughed bitterly once again. Following beside Tang Tian, the pressure was everywhere. Tang Tian would never rush anyone, but no one was willing to see the distance between themselves and others grow, even if the person was their superior. Tang Tian hardened his heart and ignored the singing. The singing gradually started, from a whisper to a clear and resonant voice, causing Tang Tian's world to spin and distort. Tang Tian was like a calm and experienced hunter, unmoved. Nie Qiu's heart was filled with emotions. Only when he got closer did he realize that Tang Tian was very different from what the rumors said. And for such a simple and honest person to be able to obtain the hearts of so many people, it made him even more precious. Suddenly, he thought about it, Golem 5 techniques. Bang! Tang Tian finally saw the strand of law clearly. Did Master gain new enlightenment? Could it be? Tang Tian was startled. An indescribable enlightenment flowed through his heart. The blue flames were actually 2 things, the blue flames that were separated from the mist. The aura made Tang Tian think of the blue sea. Could it be something born from the blue sea? And the spirited sound mist was even more complicated, and was able to confuse people's minds. This is... But he quickly reacted, and was shocked to realize that the blood and flesh in his body were actually out of control. They were abnormally lively. The temperature of his blood was rapidly rising, and was throbbing with a strange rhythm. Following such a superior is not easy for me. This thing was most proficient in confusing people's minds. With Qin Zizhen's strength, upon contact, he would definitely lose himself in the sound mist and blue flames. Tang Tian's heart was moved. Not only did he not retract his fist, he instead activated the origin force in his body even more frantically. This should be the reason why such an outstanding person is willing to work for me. He matched the hand seals one by one, and realized that 5 of the hand seals were extremely similar to the Golem 5 styles, but there were some differences. After comparing them, Tang Tian understood that the Golem 5 styles were most likely derived from the heavenly demon figure. It was highly possible that one of the forms had been lost in the inheritance process, and although the other 5 forms were passed down, there were some deviations, and were not as perfect as the true heavenly demon figure. In the future, his enemies would only become stronger and stronger, and relying on law threads to fight would only be a joke. Other than the God Fist, Tang Tian's only other attack method was the heavy demonic execution. But it is a pity that I do not know what it can use. If not, I will definitely help it obtain it. Could it be that Qin Zizhen has some special technique? Tang Tian immediately stood up and unleashed his fist stance, his face gloomy. He slowly unleashed his fist stance, and countless of law threads converged on his fist. But what he did not expect was that the strange law hidden in the blue light was actually not affected at all. Tang Tian felt that the hand seals were somewhat familiar. He frowned and thought hard, where have I seen them before? He once again placed his attention back on the heavenly demon figure. The heavenly demon figure had blue flames on one hand and sound mist on the other, but the other 4 arms were empty, which was an eyesore. Tang Tian thought, could it be that the 4 arms can absorb laws and use them? The sound mist and blue flames were actually able to prevent the heavenly demon figure from forming, and its grade was definitely not much lower than the heavenly demon figure. When he was on Phylin's star, Tang Tian had obtained a red-eyed golem, and from it, he had gained enlightenment on 5 mystical hand forms, the grasping flower form, weeping sword form, angry fist form, ethereal form, and imposing form. The golem 5 form hand seals were extremely similar to the heavenly demon figure's hand seals. After following Tang Tian for a period of time, Xiao slowly understood him. He knew that the first point was completely ridiculous. Tang Tian's subordinates did not lack people with outstanding intelligence, but he himself would definitely be a burden to everyone. But towards the second point, Xiao felt that they had underestimated the master. Outstanding talent? A godlike young lad with a godlike talent. To chase after that figure, you have to continue to work hard and continue to push yourself. Thinking back to the time when he was in Leo constellation, Xiao then realized how lazy he had been. Chapter 741. This swift and decisive action and spontaneous silence itself contained a powerful and solemn power, causing Su Yi and the rest to feel suffocated. They did not understand what an army was, but the quiet and well-trained scene in front of them gave them a huge shock. Tang Tian, who had just come out of closed-door training upon hearing Ming Zhu's report, he was dumbstruck and immediately became excited. He was just thinking about how to save the Null division from the Qin family, but never thought that Su Yi and the rest would actually succeed. Ming Zhu could not help but turn to look at Ghost Face Mask. Su Yi and the rest who were welcoming Tang Tian at the door were all extremely shocked. Han Bingning and Amauri brought the rest and left. They had to seize the time. Seeing the two groups of people leaving in an orderly manner, everyone became quiet. It was this man who changed everything. The art of armies had long been lost in the Sin domain. The current Sin domain was extremely unfamiliar with what an army was. But Su Yi and Victor were from families that had existed for a long time, although they were unfamiliar with armies, but they knew what was good for them. They were unable to measure Ghost Face Mask's depth, but they could sense the changes in the others. When Su and Zhong saw Han Bingning, he could not believe his own eyes. When did a swordsman ignite his primordial fire origin? A swordsman that ignited his primordial fire origin, this. 10 minutes later, 2 neat square formations appeared in front of everyone. Immediately, Amauri and Han Bingning walked into the field and split everyone into 2 groups, each leading 1 group. The 2 of them were not embarrassed at all and did not pass on the responsibility. The 2 of them immediately ordered their members to do a self-examination and then formed the groups. But the group in front of them did not even question them. They were quiet and their movements were clean and efficient. Maybe this group of people can truly change the Sin domain. The current Null division strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Amauri rushed in excitedly, patting everyone. Han Bingning, who was as cold as an ice mountain, was also extremely excited at the moment. The rest also rushed in and helped their comrades remove the light needles from their bodies. No one would have thought that Ghost Face Mask would actually go into closed-door training at such a crucial moment. Victor waved his hands with an innocent look. Although I was the one who came up with the idea, but everyone agreed. Besides, if we fail, will my family be spared? You won't be able to escape Qin Jin's evil hands either. Another 2 minutes later, the 2 of them led their subordinates to choose their encampments. Everyone's spirits were lifted, and the boulder on their chests was completely lifted. For a moment, everyone felt a little exhausted. The feeling of a powerhouse on the list of combat power coming back at any time was like a blade on their backs. That kind of invisible pressure made it hard for them to breathe. These days, they couldn't eat or sleep in peace. If Qin Jin came back, the 4 clans would not be able to resist, and the fate of the 4 clans would be the same as the Qin clan. They would be uprooted, and their entire clans would be annihilated. Without any hesitation, he requested for group training. Seeing the respectful smiles on Su Yi and the rest, Ming Zhu felt even more complicated. She had never thought that such a day would come, and she believed that they had never thought that such a day would come. When Benson fought with Ghost Face Mask for the first time, he never thought that there would be a day where I would welcome him outside the city. At that time, when Su Yi and the rest were talking about Ghost Face Mask, they had never thought that there would be a day where they would become his subordinates. The Qin family was completely destroyed by them, and the Null Division prisoners were obtained, so they immediately sent people to the Echo Hill Castle and requested for Ghost Face Mask to enter Purple Cuckoo City. The Qin family had already been uprooted, the four families had sided with Ghost Face Mask, and the Purple Cuckoo City had truly changed masters. "Where is he?" Tang Tian asked without hesitation. Although he was a bit rash, Su rather liked people with such a genuine temperament. Nie Chio's yin-yang formation was already at the initial stage, and his formation was already in its embryonic form. As for the Null Division members, all of them were brimming with energy and were extremely ferocious. Amauri's transformation similarly left Su shocked. She had a deep impression of this big guy among the prisoners. On one hand, it was because Amauri seemed to be the leader of this group of people. On the other hand, it was also because of his straightforward personality. Once his companions were bullied, he would be the first to rush up. Compared to the elites they had seen before, although in terms of individual strength, they were much stronger than this group of people. But they were too familiar with the scene of people huddling together, fighting and arguing with each other were extremely normal, and it was good enough that they did not open their mouths to find fault with them. If they wanted to move them, they had to give them a reason, and they had to give them money. The Su family had 92 people, adding the 65 people under Tang Tian, they had a total of 626 people. The huge change in Purple Cuckoo City also shocked everyone. The first to react was naturally Nie Chio. He immediately understood that something had happened, and had a rough estimation of the situation. But what they did not expect was that the Echo Hill Castle's doors were tightly shut, and even after their men shouted for half a day, no one opened the door for them. Just that Xue Mingzhu shouted once on the stone wall, saying that Master Ghost Face Mask was in closed-door training, and before he comes out, he will not open the castle. Everyone became quiet. They knew what Benson meant when he said to be prepared. He did not care about the thoughts of the families as long as he could save his brothers, even if they wanted to use him, he did not care. Without Ghost Face Mask's protection, the four of them did not have any confidence in fighting against Qin Zhen. In the past, they had never seen any experts on the list of powerhouses, although they felt that Qin Zhen was stronger than them, but they did not have any idea. The 60-odd people all had their auras linked together as though they were one. The situation immediately became strange. Qin Zhen was definitely on his way to Purple Cuckoo City, and if Ghost Face Mask entered Purple Cuckoo City, they did not need to worry about their safety. If Ghost Face Mask could kill Lu Tianwen, then Qin Zhen would naturally not be a problem. Even the rhythm of their breathing was completely synchronized. If they closed their eyes, they would mistakenly think that there was an ancient desolate beast breathing beside them. This man is truly powerful. The entire process was swift and decisive. No one made any noise, no one whispered to each other, and no one dragged their feet. Other than Han Bingning and Amauri's voices, no one else in the camp spoke. They lowered their heads to check on their bodies, and occasionally someone would raise their hand to report their injuries. Su Yi and Victor looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Other than that, there were no other noises. If they did not personally witness it, no one would have thought that there would actually be 600 people in the small camp. Without saying a word, Tang Tian immediately decided to return to Purple Cuckoo City. Su Yi and the rest awoke from their stupor. Su Yi immediately said, "Master, please follow me." When their subordinates ran back, everyone looked at each other in dismay. They were caught unprepared by the result. Tang Tian's subordinate strength had suddenly swelled, and their numbers had increased by 10 times. Nie Chio's confidence also swelled. To a military general, 60 men and 600 men were two completely different concepts. But, after not seeing Amauri for a few days, it was as though he had changed into a different person. His temperament was steady, his imposing aura was not revealed. It was obvious that his strength had undergone a huge transformation. It was not because of his strength, but because of his improvement. In the blink of the eye, they would be left behind. Only after witnessing the battle between Lu Tianwen and Ghost Face Mask did they understand how strong experts on the list of powerhouses were. Lu Tianwen was ranked 39 on the list of powerhouses, while Qin Zhen was ranked 43. The two of them had a difference of 4 ranks, and their standards were definitely not far apart. In Heaven's Road, an ordinary standard army had roughly 2,000 men, and 600 men was a third of a complete army. Of course, the Leo constellation was an ecliptic palace constellation, so the number of people in their armies would be much larger, but it was still maintained at the order of 1,000. If this fierce beast were to suddenly attack, who would be able to stop it? The Qin family had many prisoners, other than their original 227. The Teopiot family had 42, the Lu family had 200, for a total of 469. Nie Qiu finally had a feeling that he could put his skills to use. With a scale of 600 men, he could devise tactics, and the power that he could mobilize had increased greatly. Echo Hill Castle is still in closed-door training? When Tang Tian appeared in the prisoners' barracks, the dense mass of prisoners had a momentary silence, followed by a heaven-shaking cheer that resonated throughout the entire city. Everyone couldn't help but look at Victor. Tang Tian's fist had destroyed the city gates. The scene of her bringing the entire Shui family out of the city was still fresh in their minds. At that time, their hearts were filled with fear and bewilderment. It was a patch of darkness. At that time, they were like stray dogs, living in fear. Roland Su was the first to stand up for Victor. That's right. Now is not the time to look into who is responsible. This is everyone's choice. At this time, we need to be united to be able to overcome this crisis. Ambushing the Qin family did not take much effort. Qinzhen was not around, and only 2 of the 4 great generals were left. Qin Zizhen's archer unit was destroyed, and the Qin family was at their weakest. How could they defend against the alliance of the 4 families? Similarly, there were no problems, and his suggestion was approved. But out of consideration for safety, all of the Null Division were mobilized. Just at that moment, a scout suddenly reported with an excited expression, "There are people coming from the direction of Echo Hill Castle." In the past few days, he had a new breakthrough in his exploration of the Yin-Yang formation. But in just a few days he had actually returned, and with the attitude of a victor, he was welcomed back into the Shui residence. Such an imposing manner, when had the Sin domain ever seen it before? Amauri's strength had increased by another level. The null flames that were released from his body had gradually been retracted. Even his temperament had undergone a complete change. The initial rush and stupidity had disappeared, he had become even more steady, and the air of a great general had appeared. Han Bingning had ignited her primordial fire origin, and became the only member of the Null Division to ignite her primordial fire origin and gain enlightenment on her law surface. Even in the Sin domain, it was extremely rare for people to achieve both. Mingzhu looked at the newly repaired city gates and the welcoming crowd outside, and in that moment he was actually moved. Su Ye's tone revealed a trace of anxiousness. It was not only him, the other people also revealed a trace of worry. The result in front of them was something that they had never expected. All of the tactics and principles were the same. It was to make the use of strength more efficient. Nie Qiu was an outstanding military general, and had a deep understanding of this point, although the form of strength had changed, but the principles of the tactics had not. Benson nodded his head and said, "We better prepare early." Chapter 742. The Monarch Yearning Strike was an extremely unique martial technique, containing too many dreams, emotions, beliefs, hopes, and the tempering of her mental state allowed her to have a deeper understanding and comprehension of the Monarch Yearning Strike. She had encouraged herself countless of times. Yearning is a rainbow. Su Yi remained silent. Su Yi subconsciously wiped his forehead, and unknowingly, a layer of perspiration had appeared on his forehead. He had a lingering fear. Luckily I did not stop her. If I had killed her, everyone were experts, and immediately sensed the change in Tang Tian's aura. With the formation of a hand seal, a warm and tranquil aura dispersed out from Tang Tian's body. The current Tang Tian looked like a completely different person, without any killing intent. She knew the disparity between her and Tang Tian, and knew how little help she could give him. He had conquered Heaven's Road like a hero, while she was managing a small family in an unknown planet. Monarch Yearning Strike, Monarch Yearning Strike. Upon entering the room, Tang Tian frowned. The air was filled with a unique aura. Tang Tian kept his smile and said softly, his tone was filled with joy. He never thought that he would actually meet Gu Shui, and was even able to save Gu Shui. and never thought that Gu Shui would actually break through at such a time. Roland Ro shook her head. No, it's Qin Zhen's second family general. When we attacked the Qin family, she was in a coma the entire time. Furthermore, she seems to be in a weird situation, Master. Do you want to take a look? How can a young lady like a rainbow surrender? Why would she give up? Roland Ro heaved a sigh of relief. She was afraid that Ghost Face Mask would have killing intent or become impatient, but Master Ghost Face Mask was much more amicable than the rumors said. She immediately replied, yes, this subordinate feels that this lady has been bewitched by someone, and killing her would be a pity. Upon thinking about that scene, she could not help but shiver. Then, she felt her body being pulled up and swayed with all her might. Leaving the room, Tang Tian saw a gigantic rainbow appearing in the sky above Purple Cuckoo City, causing countless people to exclaim. The Sin domain did not have any sunlight, and naturally did not have any rainbows. All of the Sin domain people had only heard of the beautiful rainbows from their ancestors. Su Yi and the rest were dumbstruck, but in the next moment, everyone could not help but look at each other, and saw the fear in each other's eyes. His lordship knows. His lordship actually knows this girl. Su Yi was helpless against Roland Su's insistence. To him, he should just kill him. Since he was Qin Zhen's right-hand man, there was no point in recruiting him, so he might as well just kill him. However, Su was kind-hearted. Seeing that she was also a woman, she tried her best to protect her. Unknowingly, she had already surpassed the realm of the sword-slaying demon Wang Yong. Tang Tian was overjoyed and laughed. Ha, Gu Shui, it's me. You finally recognized me. That's great. There wasn't the slightest bit of cold aura, only dreamy and warm. What kind of sword intent was this? The struggle of the mind was extremely difficult. In the world of the mind, there was nothing to hide, nothing to cover up, nothing to avoid. Like a bayonet that saw blood, he was covered in cuts and bruises, but he never gave up, never surrendered. The citizens of Purple Cuckoo City all walked onto the streets, raising their heads to look at the unprecedentedly beautiful rainbow. Although the woman was unconscious, Su did not act carelessly and sent many people to watch over her. Su led the way, and Tang Tian followed the group into the depths of the city lord's mansion. At that time, only Zhong Zheng and Yen Mei were left in the Qin clan. The scale of their resistance was very small, so the city lord's mansion did not suffer too much damage and was well preserved. The woman on the bed heard someone calling her name in a daze. She slowly opened her eyes, and the first thing that entered her field of vision was the face that she had been thinking about day and night. Sure enough, as soon as Tang Tian entered the room, he sensed the aura of the blue flame. Compared to the wisp of law mark in his body, this woman's mist was much thicker, and her entire body was wrapped in a lingering blue mist. The illusion of the blue mist and the bewitching sound made Gu Shui suffer a lot, but at the same time, she benefited a lot. Acacia is a rainbow. What move was this? Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. They did not sense any fluctuations of laws. Without the fluctuation of the laws, how could the aura change? Furthermore, they had never seen such a tranquil and gentle aura before. In that moment, they felt as though they were standing in a gentle breeze. They were all people with strong willpower and regained their senses after being in a daze, but their hearts were filled with shock and felt that the master was even more unfathomable. Until today, when she opened her eyes and saw Tang Tian, all of the accumulations of training, the scars from the mental clash, and the rainbow that had never disappeared in her heart, had found the most suitable connection point and fused together, allowing her to step into a new realm. The lingering blue mist became lesser and lesser, and the woman on the bed appeared. Her silver mask was extremely eye-catching. Tang Tian looked at the rainbow above his head. The warm and dreamy sword concept reminded him of the past. Su and Zhong's face revealed a look of shock. Sword concept. The strange blue mist seeped out from the woman's body, curling and moving as though it was alive, and after a moment, it once again entered her body. He walked to the bed, the demon figure congealing in his mind, and at the same time, he formed the grasping flower seal. Gu Shui was completely awoken by the roar. She opened her eyes in a daze, but the face in her eyes did not disappear, but looked at her anxiously. She was stunned, and after a moment she muttered with uncertainty, "Tang Tian?" Tang Tian was immersed in the grasping flower seal, his expression was calm, and he had a smile on his face. "I'm dreaming again." Roland Su walked forward and spoke respectfully, "Master, we still have a captive. How can I not recognize you? Even if you turn into ashes, I can recognize you." In his mind, the gigantic demon figure appeared behind him, and his fingers were like the grasping flower seal. The blue mist entered his body, and flew into the demon figure's grasping flower seal. The blue flame became even more intense at a speed visible to the naked eye. The blue flame that was originally the size of a soybean gradually became the size of a candle, quietly floating between his fingers. The sound mist on his other hand was also expanding rapidly, its size increasing by a few times, and the thin sound became much thicker. Inside the captivating blue mist, she would wake up and sleep, as though she was in a dream. But she had never given up. She had personally experienced the destruction of her family, and had personally built her family from the ruins, and her personality was never weak. Tang Tian's subordinates formed their own system, and he did not need to worry about the null division. As for the matters of Purple Cuckoo City, Tang Tian left it to the four families. To him, Purple Cuckoo City was just a temporary residence, and he would not stay for long. The four families were the local tyrants, and had more experience than him in handling matters. Tang Tian was startled. "Captive? Is he one of us?" Monarch yearning strike. Tang Tian was startled, and in the next second he blurted out, "Gu Shui." Tang Tian looked at the smile on Gu Shui's face, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. Could it be that Gu Shui is injured somewhere? Or is there an imprint that has not been removed? In a moment of anxiousness, Tang Tian's eyes widened in anger, and he roared, "Gu Shui!" For an entire hour, Tang Tian did not move, as though he was a statue. She chuckled and closed her eyes. But just like what Tang Tian had said, so what? Gu Shui looked as though she was bathing in the sunlight, the blue sky was clear, and rainbows floated in the sky, her face revealing a satisfied smile. Since she was a captive, Tang Tian did not have any intentions of being polite. Without saying a word, he took off her mask, revealing a beautiful face. "Let's retreat." Gu Shui's face suddenly blossomed with an enchanting smile. Her eyes had transformed into two beautiful whirlpools, suddenly like countless of rainbows spinning. The entire room was filled with rainbows, and Gu Shui, who was on the bed, slowly floated in the air. Victor spoke up from the side. "This lady's background is mysterious. She is not from the Purple Cuckoo City, Master. Why not take a look?" On the bed laid a lady with a silver mask on her face, her entire body shrouded in blue mist. Gu Shui maintained her smile. She continued to feel sleepy. She wanted to continue sleeping. A light sound came out. As though the blue mist was being attracted, it transformed into a thin smoke arrow and entered Tang Tian's fingertip. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Roland Su subconsciously touched the rainbow in front of her, but grabbed onto nothing. In the blink of an eye, Tang Tian realized that he had free time again and could train again. Su Yi heaved a sigh of relief, although he did not know what inheritance the master had, but to be able to break it, that was great. When the last strand of blue mist entered Tang Tian's fingertip, Tang Tian opened his eyes, revealing a faint look of joy. The blue flames in the demonic figure's palm was already the size of a fist, and the sound mist on the other hand was as thick as a finger. Tang Tian nodded his head without hesitation. "Let's go take a look. Since I am weak, then I will become strong enough to help him, just like how he helped me in the past." She arranged everything in the family properly, settled everything down, and then walked out resolutely. A loud sound suddenly exploded out, causing the air in the entire room to be stirred, surging unceasingly. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. To others, the blue mist was poison, but to him, it was a great nourishment. The blue flames and sound mist in the demonic figure's hands were pitifully little. Su Yi and the rest were shaken to the point that their eardrums were buzzing. Their minds were in a daze. After dispersing the grasping flower seal, he left the ethereal state, and Tang Tian's gaze landed on the lady on the bed. "Mask?" Thinking about his own ghost face mask, Tang Tian was pleased. Seems like everyone likes masks. She unintentionally ended up in this place, and was controlled by Qin Zhen's blue mist, but her mind that was imprisoned never gave up. Because of himself, because of the figure, because of the rainbow, because of many other reasons. Hey, Gu Shui, quickly wake up. Everyone's faces became gloomy. Su Yi glanced at Roland Su. He trained in the life and death laws, and was extremely sensitive to the aura of death, but he had never seen the blue mist before, and had difficulty determining what it was. This dream is a little intense. Inside the rainbow, there are actually sword concepts. That was also why he wanted to kill her. The blue mist was strange, and if he was not careful he might be implicated, and it was not worth it to sacrifice himself for a captive. He was worried, and also dissatisfied with Roland Su and Victor. If something were to happen to the master, who would be able to bear the responsibility? It's weird. Tang Tian was interested. It was a pity that no matter what Roland Su did, he was unable to wake her up. If it was him, he would definitely not give up. No matter how stupid Tang Tian was, he knew that the item was extremely beneficial to the demonic figure. Chapter 743. He had just snuck out of the tavern when a figure appeared in front of him. The more Qin Zhen thought about it, the more afraid he became. Lu Tianwen had made his move, and the Lu family had no path of retreat. They would think of ways to get rid of him. Thinking about the terrifying Lu Xingxiang, Qin Zhen trembled. A sinister look flashed past Qin Zhen's eyes. He suddenly thought about Lu Tianwen, and felt that it was strange. There was such a huge movement in Purple Cuckoo City. Why did Lu Tianwen not have any reaction? Ghost Face Mask was still far from the list of powerhouses. He could not wait any longer. He decided to go back and report. It was a false alarm, but for such a huge matter, it would be a huge loss if he delayed it by a day. What we need now is time. Tang Tian thought for a moment, then asked Nietxiu, if we have a month, how strong can we be? Everyone kept quiet, but the disbelief on their faces did not fade. But seeing that Tang Tian did not refute him, everyone became suspicious. Are all of their talents that strong? Nietxiu's 1 month was definitely not without reason, and most likely, he already has a plan. If Lu Tianwen were to take action, what would the Lu family do? Qin Zhen's first thought was of Ghost Face Mask, but he quickly denied it. Ghost Face Mask's strength was not weak, but that was all. Killing Wei Han, Mu Zhe and the archer unit was shocking, but compared to him, there was still a huge gap. Impossible. The broken mountain peaks, the collapsed rocks, the large craters, everything showed that there had been a huge battle. Learning the air shield is easy, but considering that we might be fighting in the air, the difficulty of forming formations in the air will be higher, so the training time will be extended. Nietxiu's tone did not have any emotions. The first slash of the heavy demonic execution is easier to handle. Although the training of formations is new, but we have been training in formations for a long time, and will be able to adapt very quickly. But adding everything together, the time will not be short. That was what Qin Zhen did not understand, unless they were not afraid of his revenge. Or if they had someone backing them up, or if they knew that their situation was not good. Qin Zhen had been thinking about this problem for the past few days, and it was the biggest doubt in his heart. The undulations of laws lingered in the air. Seeing the undamaged Echo Hill Castle, Qin Zhen guessed that Lu Tianwen had already brought the Shui family away. I think that Ghost Face Mask has been killed, although I did not see his corpse, but it is the most logical result. Qin Zhen, who was suspicious by nature, disappeared into the night like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bough. This seemingly absurd conjecture continuously devoured Lu Lingnan's heart. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. Who could it be? The others were in complete disbelief. There was so much content, and even they felt that it was difficult to achieve. Learning everything in a month? What a joke! In front of Su Yi and the rest, Nietxiu said honestly. Would the Lu family not be jealous of the Qin family's null division prisoners? Lu Xingxiang might not be jealous, but who could guarantee that Lu Tianwen would not be jealous? Can Ghost Face Mask fight against Qin Zhen? In his eyes, The purple cuckoo city in the distance was like a monster that could devour anyone at any time, with danger lurking everywhere. Now that he was the only one left in the Qin family, he absolutely could not act so rashly. However, as the four races changed sides, Lu Lingnan sensed a trace of unease. It doesn't make sense. This is definitely not a good time to rely on Ghost Face Mask. At this moment, he suddenly remembered that the four great clans had destroyed the Qin clan. He had been wondering who the four great clans' backer was. Now that I understand, it is even more strange. Why do the four families think that Ghost Face Mask can be their backer? Lu Tianwen took action. Nie Qiu spoke frankly with assurance. With a thought, he quietly flew towards the Echo Hill Castle. A martial artist on the list of powerhouses, the strongest martial artists in the Xin domain. He can fight against Lu Tianwen. Nie Qiu's tone remained calm, as though he was speaking of an extremely ordinary matter. Just like how he understood them, they also understood the Qin family, and they knew that the Qin family was supported by Qinzhen. As long as Qinzhen was not dead, they would definitely not dare to take action against the Qin family. A conservative estimate, 1 month. Nie Qiu said. His own situation did not change. He knew where the Lu family's bottom line was, and never challenged it. Qinzhen's thoughts had always been on the Qin family, and he did not have any enemies. To be able to give Su Yi and the rest such confidence, they definitely had to be a martial artist on the list of powerhouses, and he had to be ranked higher than him. Only then would the cowards dare to make such a move. Along the way, I did not see Lu Tian when escorting the Shui family. Qinzhen suddenly thought of a possibility. The Lu family might not be his opponent, but Lu Tianwen might not. Lu Tianwen's temperament was eccentric, ruthless, and extreme, and could do anything. If Lu Tianwen had a sinister person like Su Yi by his side, it would be hard to say. Who could it be? They dare. If that's the case, then everything can be explained. Qinzhen's face congealed. Could they be colluding with the Lu family? Qinzhen shook his head again. The Purple Cuckoo City did not have any meaning to the Lu family. The two cities were not adjacent to each other, and between them was Sharp Wind City. Furthermore, if the Lu family truly has enmity with the Qin family, they will not let me return. They are definitely waiting for me. Maybe they have already set up an ambush and are waiting for me to bump into them. He could only vaguely remember the rough location of the Echo Hill Castle, and following the directions, when he flew to the Echo Hill Castle, it was empty. But Qinzhen's gaze did not land on the Echo Hill Castle, but swept across its surroundings. Tang Tian asked directly, "What ideas do you have?" There were high and low talents in humans, and to randomly pick a group of people and ask them to comprehend law threads in such a short period of time. And when he knew that the four families were actually welcoming Ghost Face Mask and the Shui family into Purple Cuckoo City, Lu Lingnan felt that something was amiss. But he did not think too much about it. How could Ghost Face Mask kill Lu Tianwen? What a joke. He just thought that maybe Lu Tianwen was just playing around. There wasn't a single person in the clan who didn't have a headache when it came to this uncle of theirs. However, his strength was extraordinarily high, so everyone could only pinch their noses and accept it. There was only one possibility left. They had someone backing them up. Ghost Face Mask is definitely not Lu Tianwen's opponent. He must have been killed. Qinzhen understood his city rivals very well. Benson was rough on the outside but meticulous on the inside. Victor was quick-witted and ever-changing. Roland Su was the most decisive. Su Yi was talented, but at the same time, he understood their weaknesses. Even if Wei Han, Mu Zhe, and Qin Zizhen's archer unit were completely destroyed, they would not dare to touch the Qin family. That old man Lu Shengxiang's strength was even more terrifying. When the four clans destroyed the Qin clan, he was just watching the show and gloating. No matter what happened to Purple Cuckoo City, the Lu family had nothing to do with it, and Lu Lingnan was eager to see them fight to the death. But he was only surprised by the four clans' confidence and boldness. Qinzhen was a martial artist on the list of powerhouses, and his strength seemed to have a breakthrough. Qinzhen looked at the rainbow in the sky above Purple Cuckoo City, his face becoming even colder. He never thought that she would actually break free from the bewitching jade illusion. Lu Tianwen? Taking the initiative to attack, to mess up the situation, and increase the time for the Lu family to react. Qin Zhen racked his brains, but could not think of anything that Su Yi and the rest could rely on. But at the same time, he knew that the four clans did not come to the Qin family impulsively. If it was one person, it might be impulsive, but for the four of them to do it together, he did not believe it. Lu Lingnan quietly snuck out of the inn. He planned to leave under the cover of the night. That is the easiest thing to do. Nie Chio's tone remained calm, without the slightest bit of anger from being doubted. Under everyone's doubtful gazes, he gave a strong proof. The 65 soldiers from before, all of them gained enlightenment on law threads, and all of them did not take more than 2 days. I am the most important existence in the Qin family. As long as I am here, the Qin family will continue to exist. How long do we need? Tang Tian asked. Now that Master Gu Shui has broken through, adding Han Bingning, a Maori, the formation, and the elites of the four families, as long as we defend, even if Lu Tianwen attacks, we will not be at a disadvantage. Although I do not know if Qin Zhen is stronger or weaker than Lu Tianwen, but if they are on the same level, it should not be a problem. Gain enlightenment on law? Everyone? That's not realistic. Su Yi could not resist but cut in. The rest were also puzzled. Nie Chio said calmly. The sudden guess caused him to tremble. The rainbow above Purple Cuckoo City caused Qin Zhen to lose his confidence. After experiencing the initial rage, Qin Zhen, who had calmed down, was filled with suspicions, and the mastermind behind the scenes made him feel a chill down his spine. What a joke, although it is not difficult to gain enlightenment on law threads, but in such a short period of time, to let everyone gain enlightenment on law threads. If not for Master Ghost Face Mask's trust in Nie Chio, they would have suspected that he was an amateur. If that's the case, then Uncle Tianwen? Could it be that Lu Tianwen is truly in Purple Cuckoo City? The four families had been unhappy with the Qin family for a long time, but Qin Zhen had never cared about them, so what, would they dare? But he quickly reacted, why is it impossible? What if Ghost Face Mask is truly stronger than Qin Zhen? If Ghost Face Mask is truly stronger than Qin Zhen, then Uncle Tianwen. The newly freed soldiers need to learn the heavy demonic execution and the air shield, to gain enlightenment on laws and train in formations. All of these require time. If we are able to complete all of these, we will become extremely strong. The Lu family will definitely not blame Lu Tianwen, they will only take the chance to swallow me up. The more Qin Zhen thought about it, the more afraid he became. That's right, Lu Tianwen is definitely waiting for me to walk into their trap. Su Yi and the rest did not believe it. Tang Tian seemed to understand. Then how do we delay the Lu family? Lu Lingnan's face changed. Taixia. Qin Zhen calmed down. He suddenly realized that he actually did not know anything about what was happening in Purple Cuckoo City. What exactly happened to actually make Su Yi and the rest dare to attack the Qin family? We do not have that much time. Victor spoke out. Qin Zhen is a suspicious person. Without understanding the situation in the city, he will definitely not appear. But he will definitely hide in the shadows, or have other methods. And the Lu family, Lu Tianwen's death cannot be hidden for long. If in another 10 days, the Lu family does not receive any news of Lu Tianwen, they will definitely be suspicious. Even if we include this period of time, it will definitely not exceed 20 days. Chapter 744. The Qin clan has been eyeing the Shui clan for Li Zhigong's inheritance. Li Zhigong had stayed in the Shui residence for a period of time. He did not have any children and disappeared after that. Su Yi said, but the Qin family has never found Li Zhigong's inheritance. They had already rummaged through the Shui residence's heavy demonic execution, but they still couldn't find Li Zhigong's inheritance. I suspect that the Lu family also wants to buy the Shui family because of Li Zhigong's inheritance. Hearing this, Tang Dun almost blurted out the demon's 6 seals. Build a mansion and open a city? Tang Tian was even more confused. What he didn't expect was that Tang Tian agreed without hesitation. What was even more unexpected was that he was asked to go. Of course, on the surface, it looked like a suggestion, Nie Chio's suggestion, but it was no different from a roll call. How could he reject it? Su Yi looked at Tang Tian's strange expression and was surprised. Master, this is? My lord, you must never mention this to anyone else in the future. Absolutely not. Su Yi was surprised at Nietzsche's eyesight, although the blind man could not see, but he was still powerful. Su Ye's voice was trembling. He had sunk into an indescribable excitement. Where do we start? Tang Tian asked lazily. Tang Tian rubbed his nose and said embarrassedly, My heavenly demon's 6 seals was comprehended from the Shui residence's heavy demonic execution. Su Ye's face was filled with yearning and respect. Ancestor Li was the first sage to gain enlightenment. When the various families first entered the Sin domain, their strengths were all crippled, and they suffered heavy casualties. It was said that in the past, Ancestor Li witnessed the blood of the various races flowing like rivers, becoming lambs for the beasts to prey on. His heart was filled with sorrow. He walked alone to the peak of the mountain, meditated for 3 days, and finally gained enlightenment on the Tao of Sin domain laws. That day, he leaped down from the peak of the mountain and brought the various races to a valley. He guarded the valley entrance alone. That day, the wild beasts that Ancestor Li killed also flowed like rivers of blood. Then he walked around the various clans and passed down the Tao of laws. Rumor has it that Ancestor Li doesn't use weapons and uses hand seals as his enemies. Sometimes he smiles, and sometimes he goes crazy. How do we make the demon's 6 seals reappear in Sin domain? For ordinary people, fighting was too far away from them. Life was what they had to face every day. A sensational victory was enough to bring the demon's 6 seals back into everyone's sights. Su Yi was already prepared for this. The Lu family sold the Null Division prisoners to the Qin family, and when Qin Zhen was buying the Null Division prisoners in Galloping Horse City, the Lu family did not stop them, showing that they do not have any ambitions towards the Null Division prisoners. Although we don't know the reason, we can pretend to be the other party. Tang Tian was confused by what he heard. Tang Tian came to a realization and asked with a strange expression, Wait, did you just say that Li Zhigong relied on hand seals? This is good. Tang Tian's eyes lit up, but he immediately had some doubts. But I haven't seen Li Zhigong's inheritance, how can I act like it? That's right, in Tang Tian's understanding it meant going around. With his level, he could only think of running to the Lu family, setting fire to the manor, and then ambushing a few important elders. But the carriage was just a cover, the interior was luxurious, and the body of the carriage was not made of ordinary materials, it was extremely sturdy, and had excellent soundproofing, so there was no need to worry about the people inside being heard by the driver outside. No wonder Master is so powerful. No wonder Master was able to kill Lu Tianwen. Su Yi felt as though someone had cast a technique on him. He was stunned, and after a few breaths of time, his face flushed red, as though he was drunk. To prove Master's identity, it is extremely simple, that is to let the demon's 6 seals reappear in Sin domain. The other party? Tang Tian was puzzled. Regardless of whether Master was enlightened by himself or was taught by someone else, he had learned Ancestor Li's inheritance, so he was Ancestor Li's inheritor. What if I win a series of victories? The moment Master turned his head, he agreed without hesitation. The current Su family was already tied to the Master's war chariot, and if the war chariot were to succeed, the Su family would naturally play a part, but if the Master were to fail, then the Su family would not be able to escape the fate of being destroyed. The driver was an old driver with 20 years of experience, his talent was limited, but he was extremely meticulous with the flow of the wind. The carriage did not budge at all, and if not for the whistling sound of the wind outside, it would be difficult to sense that the carriage was flying. Could it be that the heavy demonic execution truly contains Li Zhigong's consummate technique? Why did Qin Zhen and the rest not notice anything? All of his doubts seemed to have been resolved at this moment. He did not know how powerful the Ursa Major Null Division was, but as the inheritor of Ancestor Li, it was definitely a golden and dazzling signboard. If the Lu family is truly going for Li Zhigong's inheritance, then they will definitely have a reaction. Su Yi said, compared to Master, who is Li Zhigong's inheritor, the Shui family's importance will be greatly reduced. Like that, we can delay Lu Tianwen's news for a period of time. And Master can use the Li family's inheritance as a condition to let the Lu family come out and purchase the Null Division prisoners. He forced himself to calm down. He had initially prepared for the Master to disguise as Ancestor Li's inheritor, and all of his plans were for that. But now that he knew that the Master was Ancestor Li's inheritor, the situation had a qualitative change. Tang Tian curiously observed for a while, then retracted his gaze. He had some enlightenment in his mind, regardless of whether it was Heaven's Road, Sacred Saint Galaxy, or Sin Domain. The martial technique system was different, but their tentacles extended into the various industries of the people. That was probably why they were able to last for so long. Sounds interesting. Tang Tian felt that it was interesting as expected. With such a smart person by his side, it would save him a lot of trouble. If it were him, he would not be able to think of such a convoluted idea. A challenge. Su Yi, who had calmed down, started to think quickly. Master's hand seals. Su Yi was slightly pleased. Master might not know, but in the past, Li Zhigong relied on 6 strange and unfathomable hand seals to become the champion. This subordinate saw the hand seals that Master used to save Master Gu Shui, and thus thought of this idea. There was a qualitative change in the situation, but the entire plan only required a small change. Previously, his plan was to make Master's identity as Ancestor Li's inheritor ambiguous and not be exposed. But now, he needed Master's identity to be recognized. Su Yi explained further, "We released the signal, saying that we ambushed the Qin family because of the Null Division prisoners. And now that we have become the true controllers of Purple Cuckoo City, the Galloping Horse City is most likely waiting for a good price. As for why we need so many prisoners, it is because we want to build a city." On the road, Su Yi had always been secretly observing Tang Tian. He was still unfamiliar with this Master Ghost face mask. Tang Tian listened to him excitedly as though he was listening to a story, and continued to urge, and then? Su Yi suppressed the excitement in his heart. He took a deep breath and shouted to the coachman outside, "Change of path, we are going to East Immortal City. Master can disguise as Li Yigong's inheritor." Su Ye's eyes flickered with light. Master might not know, but in Sin Domain, the grade of inheritance usually signifies status and resources. Qin Zhen is already the most talented person in the history of the Qin family, but he is only ranked 42 on the list of powerhouses. Purple Cuckoo City is also at the bottom of the 17 cities in Sin Domain. The reason why the Lu family is so interested in the Shui family is most likely because of Li Zhigong's inheritance. Galloping Horse City is the neighbor of the 4 main cities, but its position and reputation is far from the 4 main cities. Lu Shengxiang is an ordinary man, but his heart is not small, and he wants to bring the Lu family to greater heights. A carriage flew in the sky. The driver was an old hand. The carriage was extremely stable. The wind law threads produced countless of fine breezes that wrapped around the carriage as it moved forward. Wind law was the most commonly seen law, and its greatest use was to fly. Being a coachman was the most common job for martial artists who majored in wind laws, and every trading company required a large number of coachmen. Su Yi dared to confirm that as long as this identity was revealed, it would definitely cause an uproar in Sin Domain, and countless people would move upon hearing it. Su Yi scoffed. "When we searched through the records of the Qin family, we realized that they had always been searching for something. This matter has to start from the beginning. When the various families were exiled to Sin Domain, they lived miserable lives. But the inheritances that had a long history usually had their own unique understanding of laws. The first to complete the inheritance were 5 families. These 5 families were the ones with the longest histories out of all the families that were exiled. 4 of the families had already built their own cities and occupied the richest land, which is the current 4 main cities. And the other family only had 1 person, but that person's entire family perished, so he became the target that the other families fought to rope in. His name was Li Zhigong, and not only was he the first to gain enlightenment on laws, his strength was publicly acknowledged to be the first. Before he left, he had absorbed a large amount of life origin essence. Although the life origin essence did not directly transform into origin force, but continued to strengthen his body, but the strengthened body still produced a large amount of origin force. The origin force continued to accumulate in his body, but he had nowhere to release it, and was currently surging to the point that it was about to gush out. His every movement was extremely careful, as though he was a lion that had eaten its fill, and was extremely lazy. According to Nie Qiu, the master needed someone who was familiar with the local environment as a guide, and Victor was a good choice, but he was injured by Qinjin, and had yet to recover, so the intelligent Su Yi became the best candidate. After breaking through, Gu Shui's strength was extremely powerful, and in the Xin domain where strength was respected, although one's family background was seen as important, but in front of strength, all of that was just fleeting clouds. Calling Gu Shui master made Su Yi completely convinced. Su Yi did not know why Tang Tian would agree to Nie Qiu's risky suggestion. He even felt that such a risky suggestion should not have come from a subordinate's mouth. Such a dangerous thing could be done by a subordinate, but not by the leader. Yes. A glint flashed past Su Ye's eyes. Now that the news of the Qin family being destroyed has spread, the Lu family will definitely know about it, but they will definitely not think that it was us who did it, and will suspect a third party. We only need to disguise ourselves as this third party, and run to the Galloping Horse City, and wantonly purchase the Null Division prisoners. Chapter 745. Han Bingning ignored him and distributed the copy of the Blood Bear. Draw according to this. Purple Cuckoo City was at the tip of the crescent moon in the east. Not only was it close to the mountains, it was also close to the sea, and was truly a dangerous place. The Null Division had all sunk into silence, all of their faces were green and red, all of the upright lupus people had veins popping out on their necks. That's right, as Sir's subordinates. They actually needed Sir to rescue them. They actually needed Sir to take the risk to fight for training time for them. Amauri's scalp went numb. He could tell that Han Bingning was really angry. For Master to be able to be so young and have such outstanding talent, and also possess a top-grade inheritance, Lu Tianwen is definitely not Master's final destination. A powerful leader, a powerful army, an unparalleled reputation, who can stop the Master. He really didn't have any opinions. He didn't care about such details at all. Furthermore, in Leo constellation, the flag personally bestowed by the Lion King was a supreme honor. Furthermore, the flag came from the Master's hands. Su Ye's pale face revealed an abnormal flush of red. His eyes were as bright as stars. Utter humiliation. It seemed to be right beside his ear. Han Bingning looked at the newly embroidered Blood Bear black flag, and could not help but think about the battle at the West Street, the young man with the ghost face mask who carried the flag and shouted, "Ursa Major Null Division Han Bingning, return." Su Yi was extremely excited, and had been racking his brains for the past 2 days, trying his best to plan for Tang Tian. From the moment he stepped into the Xin domain, Tang Tian had a stomach full of fire. His subordinates had been turned into prisoners, and all he needed to do was return them? Naive. Did everyone suffer for nothing? Tang Tian planned to settle the score with them when the time came. A sword was pressed against his neck, and the cold blade made his hair stand on end. He heard Han Bingning's murderous voice. "You said it's ugly?" The Xin domain's 17 cities were distributed within. The 4 great cities were located in the center of the crescent moon, where the terrain was wide and fertile. Since this place was the first to be developed, the flat terrain left no place for wild beasts to hide, making it the safest place. Gain reputation? Tang Tian was stunned. After thinking for the past few days, he suddenly realized that the Xin domain had a new opportunity. If not for Ancestor Li's inheritor, Master and his Null Division would be considered outsiders to the Xin domain, and would definitely not be able to gain the trust of the majority of the families in the Xin domain. But Master is the inheritor of Ancestor Li. The situation is completely different. Master has an extremely deep relationship with the Xin domain, and can greatly reduce the hostility of the various families. During the second battle of West Street, she had followed behind Tang Tian, followed behind the flag, and when she saw the ugly blood bear on the black flag fluttering in the wind, she had made the decision at that time to keep the flag as the Null Division flag. Tang Tian snorted coldly. Attract their attention? It's okay. Even if they don't look for me, I still want to look for them. I will definitely beat them down one by one. She remembered how she felt at that time. If she didn't force herself to not let Darlene and the others see her weakness, tears would have flowed out of her eyes. Master's identity is noble, but he is willing to take the risk for his own subordinates. Such a ruler will definitely receive the support of others. But there will definitely be people who disapprove of Master. At that moment, Master only needs to send out the army. With the army, those people will naturally obediently hand over Master's subordinates. If they wanted to go to Galloping Horse City, they should first pass through Sharp Wind City, and then follow the coastline to the west, and that would be Galloping Horse City. Su Yi changing to East Immortal City was his plan. We need to seize the time to become stronger. We should not let Master save us. As subordinates, as Master's direct subordinate army, this is a disgrace. Our current training time is all because Master risked his life to fight for it for us. This is a disgrace. That's right, Master said that he is the inheritor of Ancestor Li, so naturally no one will believe him. Then what should we do? We need to let everyone believe that we will continue to challenge all the famous experts, and as long as Master wins, Master's Demon Six Seals will become more and more famous, and then Master's request will change everyone's mind. Master is the inheritor of Ancestor Li, and has many ferocious generals under him, and will definitely become a great ruler in the future. So many people will place their bets on Master. Even if they are not willing to rely on Master, they will not make things difficult for the prisoners, and Master can use benefits to exchange, and without moving a single soldier, you can redeem many of your subordinates. Everyone looked at each other. The closest cities to Purple Cuckoo City were East Immortal City and Sharp Wind City. East Immortal City was at the northwest of Purple Cuckoo City, while Sharp Wind City was at the southwest of Purple Cuckoo City. My drawing is not bad, right? A Maori said happily. It looks better than Crazy Tang. Su Yi even saw the hope of unifying the Xin domain. Lu Tianwen's ranking was not worthy of the title of Ancestor Li's inheritor, and would only make a fool of himself. Only with a higher ranking and even more dazzling existence could the entire Xin domain crawl under Master's feet. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and pretended to be calm. Once Master wins a few battles, no one in the Xin domain will dare to go against Master's orders. All of Master's subordinates will return to Master's side. Master will ultimately have to take a bigger risk. Su Yi explained, because once Master's identity as Ancestor Li's inheritor is exposed, it will also attract the greed of others. They will definitely think of ways to obtain Ancestor Li's inheritance from Master. Master will encounter danger at any time, and following the rise of Master's reputation, it will most likely attract the attention of the top-grade martial artists. If it is just to spread his name, he can just announce Lu Tianwen's death to the world. But with that, Lu Shengxiang will definitely disregard everything and attack. And in this period of time, Master's strength will soar by leaps and bounds. Why not leave some time as a buffer? Master can first find a few people to warm up, and have a higher chance of winning against Lu Shengxiang. The title of Ancestor Li's inheritor was definitely one of the strongest signboards in the Xin domain. More importantly, Master's null division. Su Yi saw another kind of strength in the null division, and as long as he allowed Master to gather his subordinates, no one would be stronger than him. There was no need for any other words. The null division started to train fervently, as though every single one of them were risking their lives. The Shui family's weavers were extremely skilled, and very quickly, they finished embroidering the blood bear black flag. What weakness? Tang Tian immediately asked, until Han Bingning spoke out. A Maori could not resist and said, "Don't tell me you truly want to use such an ugly bear as our null division's flag?" This subordinate has been thinking for the past 2 days. There are many changes that need to be made to our previous plans. Since Master has inherited Ancestor Li's inheritance, Master's identity as Ghost Face Mask can be maintained. Furthermore, we can openly ask for subordinates from the various families. The Lupus men all thought that Tang Tian was willing to die for glory, and the humiliation caused all of their hearts to bleed. Nye Qiu, who was silently sensing the changes, realized that he needed to re-evaluate the army. What's the use of that? Tang Tian did not care. The flag and mask, this subordinate specially asked them to send it over, master's trip this time, we need to be open and above board, and have a good reason. Su Yi said solemnly, since we have decided to raise our reputation, we need to make a big commotion, and do it that way. The current Sin domain that they had opened up was a long and narrow crescent-shaped region that extended from east to west. On one side of the crescent was an endless mountain range, while the other side was an endless blue sea. He did not know if it was the right thing to do, but it was the best plan he could think of. In such a difficult time, in such a dangerous time, in such a desperate time, the figure carrying the flag, the pride and disdain in his eyes, had awoken her hope. Su Yi finally understood Niechio's feelings. It was not that they did not want to design a safer plan, but because the master was too strong, and in the plan, the master would always become the most important part. Purple Cuckoo City. Tang Tian's eyes lit up when he heard it. He could hear that Su Ye's plan had a high possibility of success. Compared to fighting them one by one, Su Ye's plan was much more powerful. His drawing was truly better than Tang Tian's, at least one could tell that it was a normal bear. When everyone knew that the ugly graffiti-like flag was what the master had used to save Han Bingning, the entire Null Division agreed. Hearing how the master had taken the risk alone, hearing how arrogant and tyrannical the master was, the entire Null Division was fired up. If possible, it is best for all of you to participate in the training. Amauri suddenly spoke to everyone. His expression was serious. We will definitely leave the Sin domain. If all of you are able to assimilate into the army earlier, it will be beneficial for all of you in the future. Seeing that, the others could only stand up. After that, he felt that his imposing manner was too weak and added, don't you need to ask for the opinions of others? We will do as you say. Tang Tian said without hesitation. This is the first step. Su Yi said happily. After 2 days of bitter thinking, his plan was continuously perfected. At this time, everyone will definitely ignore the master. But no matter, we will start to raise our reputation. The blood bear black flag looked exactly like Tang Tian's drawing, but after a new embroidery, the flagpole was changed to an even stronger profound iron pole, and it looked more imposing. Su Yi was hesitant. He looked at Tang Tian and said, this plan has a flaw. Tang Tian looked at the newly embroidered blood bear black flag, and his face twitched. Don't you guys know how to redraw it? Amauri raised both of his arms without hesitation. I'll listen to you. We can do that. Tang Tian's eyes opened wide. His face was filled with shock. Su Ye's words had opened a new window for him. Just at that moment, a carriage flew over from behind. The coachman brought over the blood bear black flag and the ghost face mask. I will participate. Gu Shui was the first to stand up. She could feel that the group of people supported Tang Tian from the bottom of their hearts. Niechio laughed. His confidence was at an unprecedented high. Amauri did not know that he would be proud of his words for many years to come. Such a plan would always be an irresistible temptation. If it was in the past, he would definitely not have come up with such a plan. Because the entire plan was completely betting on the master alone. Betting on the master being able to endure the pressure, betting on the master being able to become stronger through the series of challenges. Tang Tian laughed, his fighting spirit soaring. Don't worry. If the Ice Mountain Girl is truly angry, she can do anything. Su Ye's words surprised Tang Tian. He asked curiously, they will return it? Roland, Su and the rest who witnessed the change all sucked in cold breaths. What kind of subordinates are they? I'm afraid they won't. Su Yi laughed. Although Ancestor Li gave grace to the Sin domain in the past, but it has been a long time, and I reckon that not many people will acknowledge that debt. But it doesn't matter. With that, we will have a good reason to attack. Ancestor Li's inheritor went out to sea and encountered a storm, but the subordinates will be divided by everyone, and we will have to ask for compensation from the various families. That is natural. Han Bingning turned his head. Niechio seemed to know that Han Bingning was looking at him, and chuckled, I don't have any objections. Master, you should spend the next few days in closed-door training. Su Yi said softly, when we reach East Immortal City, I'm afraid it will be a series of bitter battles. Chapter 746. Su Yi laughed. That's right, and I'm afraid that they have already found out about us. East Immortal City has 3 families, the Su family, the Yu family, and the Song family. The strongest is the Su family. Su Xiangdong is an introverted and low-profile man, and rarely steps out of East Immortal City, and is ranked 48th on the list of powerhouses. I'm afraid that he is intentionally underestimating us. An infamous person who could stop babies from crying at night. In the smoke screen, a wisp of cold strength chi attacked again. Tang Tian was not afraid, his arm that was hanging down slashed upwards, executing the heavens, silently swept past, colliding with the cold energy, causing the tyrannical energy contained in executing the heavens to explode out. Su Xiangdong's hand that was holding the bitter fruit to his mouth stopped, revealing a look of surprise. Where's Qingzhen? He felt that Su Ye's method was good, but it was slightly roundabout, and was not as straightforward as directly killing his way in. Such a pity. If it was an Ursa Major constellation, they would directly send an army over, and see who would dare to not hand it over. Su Xiangdong waved his hand, and he bowed and retreated. On the rattan chair, Su Xiangdong closed his eyes and pretended to sleep, his mouth revealing a cold smile. He was different from Qingzhen, who was in the limelight. Su Xiangdong was an expert in concealing his strength and biding his time. East Immortal City was a small city, and the Su family was not a big family. Su Xiangdong was barely able to squeeze into the list of powerhouses, and was ranked 48th behind Qingzhen. If it was said that a B-grade infamous person was just a first-rate expert, then an A-grade infamous person could squeeze into the list of powerhouses. How many families have received this letter? But the resistance from his palm caused his body to become sluggish. At the moment when he rushed out from the smoke, he realized that his hand blade had actually entered a large net. Countless of black mist churned like black worms, frantically gnawing at the transparent palm print. Su Ye's face turned white, life and death. They mutually countered each other, but the palm print that contained an extremely pure life force was actually unable to move the net of death. The aura of death was too dense, like a raging wave. The two parties were not on the same level. Death thread? Tang Tian heard Su Ye's exclamation, but he did not have the time to think. The net in front of him was extremely strange. The power of executing the heavens was extremely dense, but upon hitting the black net, it actually dissipated into nothingness. Moreover, the wisps of black fog were like wriggling worms, desperately trying to burrow into his skin. The law of life and death was one of the 3 great fundamental laws, but the number of people who cultivated it was the least. Life and death were impermanent, and the changes in the laws of life and death were the most bizarre and unpredictable. There were even fewer people who cultivated the death laws alone, because the dense death energy would unwittingly corrode a person's vitality. Even cultivators could not escape it. That was why most cultivators would train in both life and death, using their life force to counteract the corrosion of death, and Su Ye's seal of life and death was the same. Tang Tian's aura suddenly changed. Even smart people can be fooled. Lao He laughed. The Qin clan has fallen. He said with certainty, the 4 clans have joined forces and destroyed the Qin clan. We do not know the details, but many people saw Ghost Face Mask and the Shui family entering the city, and Su Yi and the rest were extremely respectful. He said, in a moment of desperation he could not care about anything else. His left hand formed the grasping flower seal. In the inn. Hard to say. He thought for a moment. Ancestor Li gave grace to the various families in the past, and every once in a while, there would be some swindlers that would come out and use it to gain benefits. I have never heard of Ghost Face Mask's relationship with Ancestor Li, and only heard that he is the leader of the Ursa Major Null Division. This should be true, but this old servant has never heard of the Null Division of Ursa Major Constellation, and after asking around, no one knows about it. Ancestor Li's inheritor is too strange. I think he knows that it will be difficult to get his subordinates back, and is using the tiger's skin as a banner. All of the hairs on Tang Tian's body stood. An intense sense of danger surged in his mind. The heavy demonic execution was useless against the death aura, and his hand was tightly bound and could not move. But upon encountering a person who trained in death laws, he had to be careful, because such an enemy usually meant that he was powerful. Furthermore, Xianxia's ferocious name, in the circle that trained in life and death laws, was definitely at the peak. This old servant will see how capable he is tonight. Old He replied respectfully. He immediately understood why he was able to sense the other party before the master. It was because the other party trained in death laws, and the dense death aura made him feel it. The death line was the most famous technique of death laws. It was formed from the densest death aura, and could unknowingly corrode life force. This ghost face mask has some standards. I wonder what kind of bewitching potion he fed them. They are truly crazy. Su Xiangdong said lazily. He is most likely a swindler, Ancestor Li's inheritor. Could it be that Su Yi was scared by him? Wasn't it said that he is extremely astute? His body was extremely tyrannical, and was the strongest weapon. Suddenly, a ripple appeared on the net. The messy dead lines twisted strangely, and a horrifying human face appeared on the net. The human face was ugly and sinister. It opened its mouth, and a black mist surged out, as though there were countless of vengeful spirits wailing and howling inside. Su Xiangdong, who was half-dressed, reclined on the rattan chair, chewing on the bitter fruit. The bitter fruit was a fruit from a shrub. It had a thick and chewy skin, but the taste was extremely bitter, and the juice was as black as ink, thus it was called the bitter fruit. Su Xiangdong loved to eat the bitter fruit, and it was not a secret in East Immortal City. All of the prisoners have good qualities, and what's rarer is their loyalty. Su Xiangdong said slowly, although I am not interested in ghost face mask, but the bitter fruit is a good thing. Qin Zhen spent so much effort, there must be a lot of prisoners in Purple Cuckoo City, right? Tang Tian moved with his blade, wanting to slice the enemy in half. They should have received the letter. Tang Tian was eager to give it a try. It is very impressive. Purple Cuckoo City is by the sea, and we have picked up over 400 prisoners, adding the 200 sent by the Lu family, that is over 600. Old He knew what the patriarch was planning, but he had to admit that it was an enticement that no one could resist. Tonight, we will go and probe Ghost Face Mask. Su Xiangdong said, who knows, we can take the chance to swallow Purple Cuckoo City. Just at that moment, the human face was like an illusion in the water. It suddenly flashed, and opened its mouth to bite towards Tang Tian's hand blade. A thread of cold qi clashed with Tang Tian's hand blade. Bang! It suddenly exploded, and the wall in front of Tang Tian instantly exploded, countless of rocks flying everywhere. If it was any other ordinary person, their first reaction would be to retreat. The rocks that exploded were like arrows, and with the dust and smoke in front of them blocking their vision, they would not be able to see the enemy clearly, and retreating would be the best choice. Tang Tian was startled, but he immediately reacted, and sensed a thread of qi. His figure suddenly flashed, and appeared in the corner like a ghost, his hand blade piercing into the wall, and the sturdy wall was pierced through like tofu. Su Xiangdong chewed on the bitter fruit, the black juice staining his teeth black, but he did not care, and asked, what's the news from Purple Cuckoo City? But Su Xiangdong's expression did not seem to care about Qin Zhen. Qin Zhen is going to cry now. How can we endure it? Su Xiangdong's tone was filled with schadenfreude. No matter what, we should at least wipe out the 4 families. Su Yi was strong, but compared to Qin Zhen, he was still lacking. That's not right. I have seen Su Yi before. He is not a fool. Why would he do such a stupid thing? Aren't they afraid that Qin Zhen will deal with them later? He was in Galloping Horse City. Old He spoke respectfully. It is said that he had a secret deal with the Lu family. The Lu family gave 200 Null Division prisoners to Qin Zhen, and the Qin family sold the Shui family to the Lu family. This matter had caused a huge ruckus in Purple Cuckoo City. The Shui family had sought help from various families, but no one dared to help them. Qin Zhen went to Galloping Horse City to visit Lu Xingxiang. But he had always been in contact with other families, wanting to purchase more Null Division prisoners, and had already reached an agreement with a few families. The Lu family didn't object either. Su Ye's face completely changed, the dense death aura surged out. Until now, when the death puppet appeared, the other party's identity was obvious. Death Puppeteer He Xin. An A-class outlaw from 10 years ago. I'm afraid we don't need to kill our way over. Su Ye's gaze suddenly turned cold. If he had fought steadily, the current Qin family would definitely be in a different situation. Old He stood at the side respectfully. There are 3 families. Our family, the Yu family, and the Song family. Our family has 66 prisoners, the Yu family has 32, and the Song family has 23. East Immortal City was close to the mountains and not the sea, and thus the number of prisoners they had was far less than Purple Cuckoo City. Su Yi did not hesitate at all. The life force in his body surged, his palm became transparent like a crystal, and he struck out at the death wire net. A transparent palm print impressively appeared on the net. Then when do we kill our way over? Tang Tian asked anxiously. It was as though the black smoke had converged to form lines, interweaving in front of him like a spider web. A few extremely fine black lines coiled around his palm like vines, all the way to his wrist. They were all tightly bound. Tang Tian tried his best to retract them, but realized that he could not move. The black lines were extremely sturdy, and they seemed to have a unique method to dissolve Tang Tian's power. That's true, the more shrewd a person is, the easier it is to fall for it. That means, Purple Cuckoo City has fallen into Ghost Face Mask's hands? Su Xiangdong thought. Su Yi finally saw it clearly, and his face changed. Death wire. Death puppet. Savage He Xin. Old He, do you think his identity as Ancestor Li's inheritor is true or false? Su Xiangdong suddenly asked. Tang Tian did not retreat, but instead lowered his head. Like a raging bull, he welcomed the explosion and smashed into the smoke screen. Old He replied respectfully, but there are rumors that the Purple Cuckoo City had a strange phenomenon. A rainbow pierced through the sky and did not dissipate for a long time. Everyone said that there was a powerful martial artist who gained enlightenment. Qin Zhen left the Galloping Horse City, but has not revealed himself. Qin Zhen is a suspicious person, and without knowing the situation, he will definitely not make a move and will only watch from the shadows. The ambusher did not expect Tang Tian's hand blade to contain such terrifying power, and suffered a loss. All of the Null Division prisoners were of high quality, and as long as they could groom them into servants, the Su family's strength would definitely soar. Qin Zhen's plan was great, but it was a pity that he was too rash and overestimated his control over the Purple Cuckoo City, and thus ended up with such a bitter outcome. Chapter 747. All of the puppets looked like machines, but their speed was as fast as lightning, and their movements were not restricted by the human body, as all of their joints could move at will. The formless spirit seal had raised his intuition, and he had immediately sensed the abnormality. Su Yi snorted. I never thought that the Great East Immortal Pavilion would not be safe. But that's right, the Death Puppeteer He Xin, you guys will not be able to stop him. The leader immediately replied, Thank you. Su Yi carefully searched for a moment, and finally relaxed. He did not sense He Xian's chi. Tang Tian snorted. He was not afraid, and welcomed the enemy with a executing the heavens. A groan came out from afar. Su Yi could not help but shiver. Bang bang bang. Tang Tian did not move, his expression did not relax at all. Tang Tian's left hand secretly formed a formless spirit seal, but he did not allow his chi to leak out, and everything around him was extremely clear. His intuition was extremely sharp. Other than Nye Qiu, the talented fellow, Tang Tian had never found anyone who surpassed him in this aspect. The two fists clashed. The barrage of attacks caused Tang Tian to retreat step by step. He did not even have the chance to catch his breath. No need. Su Yi was getting impatient. How did you find out? The seal was like a flower. The Death Heart Seed was born from the densest death aura, causing it to not have any death aura. Many people who were planted with the Death Heart Seed would not be able to sense it. The most terrifying thing about the Death Heart Seed was that upon being planted, as long as the target's state of mind was slightly relaxed, it would quietly seep into their state of mind and take root there. He trained in life and death laws, and was extremely sensitive to the undulations of death aura. If He Xin was still around, he would definitely be able to sense it, just like how he had sensed Xianxia's presence. Tang Tian roared. He did not retreat, but advanced and pounced towards one of the puppets. A powerful force suddenly exploded out from Tang Tian's fist seal, and the death puppet was sent flying like a powerless puppet, crashing into the wall. The net formed by the death threads was like ink in water, disappearing into the darkness. But the death threads were extremely difficult to deal with. Upon being repelled, they became like snakes that were startled, and pounced towards Tang Tian even more frantically. Weeping Sword Seal. Su Yi said with lingering fear. He's gone. Su Yi trained in life and death laws, and naturally knew of the changes between life and death. It was extremely profound and unfathomable. Life comes from death and death from life. The denser the death aura, the greater the need for flesh and blood to nourish it. Xianxia's law surface actually projected such a dense death aura. Who knew how much flesh and blood it had devoured? Right at this moment, an unexpected event occurred. His knife hand struck the leader's body as if he had defeated him. Pa! This person's body was sent flying like a sandbag, crashing heavily into the wall, leaving behind countless cracks as he was embedded in the wall. The power of Tang Tian's devil saber creation was so strong that it directly shattered the bones in this person's body, and the entire chest cavity completely collapsed. But at this time, the chest cavity returned to normal, and the shattered bones were as good as new, but the skin showed a terrible gray color. It was like a fist and a seal, but it was incomparably in line with Tang Tian's current state of mind. It was an indescribable feeling of contentment. Tang Tian felt a warm current flowing on the surface of his body. It was incomparably hot. His body was like a pot of boiling oil, surging incessantly. Su Yi and the guards of the inn were startled, but immediately, all of them revealed looks of anger. A group of guards hurriedly barged in. Countless of Black Death aura surged out from his body. The Black Death aura quickly transformed into lines of death threads, and in the blink of the eye, the Black Death threads transformed into a large net that wrapped around the man's body tightly. I knew that I would not be able to escape Patriarch Su's discerning eyes. The entire wall collapsed with a loud rumble. The leader bowed and asked, "Can I take a look?" Tang Tian did not say anything. His gaze slowly swept across every corner of the courtyard, his movements extremely slow. Angry Fist Seal. Tang Tian immediately released his right palm. He did not have any techniques, nor did he require any techniques. Every fist of his was extremely heavy. Tang Tian's palm went numb. The strength of the opponent's fists was surprisingly strong. In that short period of time, a few figures pounced forward like lightning. The dense death aura, under the terrifying power, was shattered. And the puppet's body was completely shattered. The death aura that was shattered consumed a lot of energy, and could no longer maintain the puppet. Grasping Flower Seal, out of the Demon Six Seals, it was the seal that Tang Tian was most familiar with. Bang! Just at that moment, Tang Tian did something that Su Yi would never have thought of doing. The leader of the guards did not bend his knees, and rushed towards Tang Tian like an arrow. Tang Tian's right palm that had formed a seal suddenly released a mist. Inside the mist, countless of sorrowful voices sounded out, and the death net that was wrapped around Tang Tian was instantly shattered, transforming into a black mist that entered the death-line black net. Like a balloon that had been popped, the man's face rippled, and then disappeared. Su Ye's face turned pale white, his heart overwhelmed with shock. In that moment, the life in the guard's body had been sucked dry, and transformed into dense death aura, which was so dense that it almost spewed out of his body. Seeing that, Su Yi focused his mind and sensed carefully. After a moment, he opened his eyes and said with certainty, "He left."
What?
He was furious. The death aura is unaffected by slashes, right? The death puppet's body is as sturdy as steel? You assholes think that you can defeat me with numbers? Bang bang bang. Su Yi looked at Tang Tian. Seeing that Tang Tian nodded his head, he said, "That's fine too, take a look." The air current passed through the fist. The roar was like an angry roar. Tang Tian's figure suddenly became blurry, as though a blazing wave of air had swept past him. Shouts could be heard from outside the walls. Flames could be seen flickering, It was obvious that the guards of the tavern had heard the commotion and rushed over. A low and hoarse voice came out from the man's body. His right palm formed a seal. Whoosh, the surrounding temperature suddenly soared. Tang Tian's fist seemed to have a layer of red light, like a reflection of flames. Between the bricks, the puppet's body kept on twitching, and did not stand up again. The other guards' faces all turned white. None of them had noticed their leader's abnormality. Everyone looked at each other, seeing the shock and fear in each other's eyes. They all scrambled to turn and escape. Tang Tian and the rest were not staying in any ordinary tavern. The Su family was a big family, and were extremely particular about food and clothing, so why would they stay in an ordinary tavern? And Su Yi had long expected such a thing. Since the enemy's sneak attack was unavoidable, he might as well make it bigger. Once the Death Heart Seed was activated, it would instantly suck the target's life force and transform it into Death Aura. It used the target's most primal life force, and the Death Aura that was transformed would also be extremely dense. As it was rooted in the mind, it would not even give the target time to react. It was an indescribable comfort. Tang Tian's red eyes regained a trace of clarity. But a few black figures pounced at him again. He roared and released a few fist seals. The angry fist seal allowed him to increase his strength by a large amount. His strength was originally strong, and after the increase, he became extremely terrifying. The leader glanced at the hole in the wall and asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" With that, he lowered his head and walked towards the hole in the wall. Tang Tian stood in the middle of the road. He bowed slightly and was about to walk past Tang Tian. Just at that moment, Tang Tian's eyes suddenly exploded with a bright light aura, and his hand blade suddenly shot out. Su Yi stared blankly at Tang Tian, who was the only one standing. Tang Tian's eyes were red, but his expression was extremely cold. His entire body was releasing a blazing hot aura, as though he was a demon that walked out of hell. Every strike caused Tang Tian's arm to go numb. All of the ordinary guards were filled with extremely dense death aura, and became as taut as steel. All of the undead puppets were not affected at all. They did not stop and pounce towards Tang Tian. Su Yi could not be bothered with him. All of the guards were strong enough to deal with ordinary experts, but in front of a powerful martial artist like He Xen, they were not even considered ants. The rage in Tang Tian's chest grew. The opponent's methods were extremely strange, causing him to feel as though he had punched into a pile of cotton, and it was an indescribable grievance. Humans had 7 emotions and 6 desires, and all of them gave birth to demons. In the shadows, He Xian's mouth had a trickle of blood, his eyes revealing a look of shock. In the blink of an eye, they had become undead puppets like the leader of the guards. The only thing that Su Yi did not expect was that he would be able to meet the undead puppeteer, He Xen. The death lines crisscrossed, and the eyes of the leader of the guards became as black as ink. Martial artists that trained in pure death aura were not welcomed, and most of them would become vicious. Without the life laws to neutralize them, the death laws would continue to corrode the cultivator's body, and even their state of mind would be corroded by the death aura, and they would become extremely ruthless and cruel. Hearing that, the leader's face changed. Undead puppeteer He Xen. The extremely hoarse voice made the leader of the guards look like a marionette. All of his movements were extremely strange and stiff, causing people to feel a chill in their hearts. One after another, death aura surged out from their bodies. Su Yi subconsciously muttered, "Death Heart Seed." An indescribable sorrowful aura suddenly spread out from Tang Tian's body, forming a seal that resembled a sword. In Tang Tian's mind, the demon figure appeared. The sound mist coiled around the hands that formed the weeping sword seal. The heaven and earth were filled with sorrow, and the injuries were deep into the bones. The Death Law Surface was the most evil and terrifying ability. When the Death Law Surface reached a completely matured state, it would start to transform from death, and would be able to project out a strange gray seed, which was the Death Heart Seed. Tang Tian stared intently at the other party, feeling a rarely seen anxiousness. Regardless if it was Heaven's Road or the Sacred Saint Galaxy, in truth, there were still traces of it, but the Sin domain had some unique laws that were extremely strange and unpredictable. Tang Tian's aura suddenly changed. If it was said that previously, Tang Tian was like a heavy axe, then the current Tang Tian was extremely quiet and peaceful, as though he was holding a fresh flower. He had a smile on his face, and his fingertips lightly pointed at the sinister human face that was pouncing towards him. Every puppet was a punch without any fancy moves. That is, Tang Tian felt that the death thread that was coiling around his right hand had loosened slightly. Without hesitation, his right hand trembled, and a powerful force suddenly burst forth, causing the death thread to bounce off slightly. The death aura is not affected. I will completely shatter the puppets. The undead puppets are as hard as steel. Even if they are steel, I will shatter them bit by bit. But in the blink of an eye, Tang Tian had already completed the seal. The leader of the guards bowed. It is my duty. I hope that our guest can make things convenient for us. The commotion was huge and immediately alerted everyone around. What a joke! Chapter 748. It's the Su residence. Everyone could not help but take in a breath of cold air, their faces turning pale white. When they saw Ghost Face Mask running while dragging the broken peak, all of their faces revealed looks of shock. There's actually such a godly power in the world. There was a shop in front of Tang Tian, but Tang Tian did not have any intention of dodging. He dragged the broken peak and rushed forward. The workers and shopkeepers of the shop were all shocked. All of them were dumbstruck. But when they saw Tang Tian rushing over in a daze, their faces turned white, and everyone dispersed. The first to react was Su Yi. He was stunned, and swallowed his saliva with difficulty. Is Master going to force himself on me? Tang Tian's speed became faster and faster. The bottom of the broken peak and the ground created sparks. The rumbling sounds became more and more terrifying. The heart-palpitating tremors extended to every corner of East Immortal City. The layout of the entire inn was built around this towering broken peak. The broken peak was the center of the courtyard, and every courtyard was directly facing the broken peak when one exited the door. The 12 high-grade courtyards were called the 12 Academies of Broken Peaks. In the Purple Cuckoo City, Ghost Face Mask was a legend. Rumble, rumble. Tang Tian did not care about He Exin, who was hiding in the shadows. He could not be bothered with an injured man. At that moment, he only had one thought: Su Xiang Dong. The spectators exclaimed out from time to time. The Purple Cuckoo City and East Immortal City were neighbors, and there were frequent interactions between the two, and many people in East Immortal City had heard of the Ghost Face Mask that had caused an uproar in the Purple Cuckoo City. On the contrary, the four families had sealed the Purple Cuckoo City after destroying the Qin family, and the news of what happened after that had not spread out in the East Immortal City. Just as everyone was inhaling cold air, Tang Tian had already gathered all the strength in his body, and dragging the broken peak, he moved step by step. The 60m long broken peak was actually being dragged by Tang Tian. Death Thread King Puppet. The red color was not flames. He did not sense any undulations of laws. Thinking about the information that his subordinates had sent, He Exin wanted to kill all of them. What fist technique that can absorb law threads? This fist technique does not have any undulations. A startled exclamation rang out, and the bustling crowd fell into a deathly silence. The red light seeped into Tang Tian's body, almost burning his flesh and blood. The originally turbulent origin power surged even more violently, and Tang Tian felt as though his entire body was filled with inexhaustible power. Boom! He walked out of the courtyard. He was extremely shocked, but he was quick-witted and immediately realized that this was a great opportunity. This scene was too shocking. Anyone who saw this scene would definitely be shocked. This. His entire body was burning. Regardless of what Ghost Face Mask wanted to do, it was definitely not a small matter. All the people in the city stopped what they were doing. An earthquake? Exion's law surface was like a piece of black paper. The deathly white flames slowly engulfed the black paper, the law surface combusted, and the power of death became extremely dense. Exion widened her eyes, her expression was blank. Was this guy still human? Furious Fist Seal. Even if the city wall was in front of it, it wouldn't be able to stop it for even a moment. It would only be smashed into pieces. Xianxia's mind buzzed and became blank. He did not think that Tang Tian wanted to directly deal with the Su family, but thought that his probing had angered Ghost Face Mask, and that Ghost Face Mask would directly attack them. Many of the spectators jumped onto the broken mountain peak to see more clearly. Tang Tian had already forgotten about Su Ye's meticulously arranged plan. So, Tang Tian walked to the front of the fake mountain, and he broke a few of the chains. Rumble, rumble. Xianxia's face was pale white. He was overwhelmed with shock. The broken mountain peak was made entirely of black-green rock. It was extremely sturdy and dense, with a height of 60 m. Its weight was most likely at least 500,000 caddies. Breaking a mountain peak with one slash, all the powerful martial artists on the list of powerhouses had methods to do so, but to rely on brute force to move a 500,000 caddies mountain peak, it was unheard of. The broken mountain peak's speed continued to increase, and was already close to walking. Tang Tian's step by step was extremely firm. But how is that possible? No wonder my death puppet was destroyed. He wanted to cry. We just wanted to probe him. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Tang Tian was not afraid. Xianxia looked at the cracks on his laws, and was overwhelmed with shock. Bang, a loud sound came out, the broken mountain peak trembled, the remaining chains all broke, and the potted flowers that were hanging on the chains all fell to the ground. What is Ghost Face Mask doing? Xianxia, who was hiding in the shadows, carefully observed Ghost Face Mask. The aura that he was releasing was extremely strange. It was obviously giving off a scorching feeling, but at the same time, it had an extremely cold aura. What is the red light that is being released from his entire body? In front of such a terrifying power, all of his techniques and transformations were like paper mache. Victory! The spectators were all dumbstruck. This is... Tang Tian barged into the shop. The broken mountain peak also created sparks and crashed into the shop. Outside the courtyard was a fake mountain. The owner of the inn had specially invited experts to cut down a precipitous mountain peak, and spent countless of effort to transport it here, so the owner of the inn named it the Broken Mountain Peak. The highest point of the Broken Mountain Peak was 60 m tall. It was extremely precipitous and cold. Its entire body was green and black, with 12 arm-thick chains pulling down from the peak. The owner had ingeniously hung many potted plants, and a cold spring flowed down from the peak, causing the mist to churn, creating a unique scenery. Regardless of whether he won or lost, his strength would drop greatly, but at that moment he could not care about anything else. No one noticed his movements, and whether he lived or died, it all depended on this gamble. Ursa Major Null Division. Wait a minute, what is he trying to do? The shop was like paper mache. It instantly split into pieces, transforming into countless of pieces. The top half directly flew into the sky and rolled in the air. The sudden explosion of death aura caused the crowd to be in an uproar, many of them revealing looks of shock. In the blink of the eye, the martial artists who had their life force sucked out had their eyes turned black. They were like angry arrows. The surging death aura continued to leak out from their bodies, transforming into pitch-black death threads that coiled around their bodies. Forward. Every time the gigantic broken mountain peak moved, the ground would tremble. But he knew that if Ghost Face Mask were to kill his way in, the Su family would definitely lose all face. A look of ruthlessness flashed past his eyes. He who was hiding in the shadows once again quietly released his death spirit aura. The angry fist seal was not ordinary. The demonic figure in his body did not dissipate, releasing an endless might. But very quickly, they became excited. Whoosh! A few chains were held in his hands. Everyone was stunned. The 60 m long broken mountain peak was extremely heavy. Many of them still remembered the grand occasion when the broken mountain peak entered the city, where hundreds of people dragged the broken mountain peak like ants, spending countless of effort to move it into the city. There is actually someone who can rely on his own strength to move the broken mountain peak. This direction. The second person to react was Xianxia. The red light around Tang Tian's body became even brighter, the ghost face mask becoming even more sinister. All of the muscles on Tang Tian's body were burning. The gigantic demonic figure behind him was releasing a terrifying red light. The red light did not have any heat. Tang Tian's mind was ice cold, but his body felt like it was in a furnace. Such an astonishing divine power had never appeared before. But the strange thing was that his emotions seemed to have been stripped away. He looked on coldly, his mind was ice cold. Tang Tian's expression was ice cold. The space around him seemed to be dyed red, as though it was dyed red. Among the spectators of the Battle of Western Street, there were many who had personally witnessed it, and upon hearing the commotion, they rushed over, and upon seeing the ghost face mask bear flag, they all became excited. A few of the smarter people immediately flew up into the sky. Looking down from above, it was as though there was a monster wreaking havoc. All the houses and shops in front of the monster were useless, the walls that they met were destroyed, the houses that they met were destroyed. Bang, 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 the dust that rose up into the sky formed a straight path. Tang Tian started to jog, the long chains were stretched taut, and with a clattering sound, the heavy broken mountain peak continued to increase in speed. The death lines on their bodies were extremely dense, densely packed and coiled into circles, as though they were black mummies, only revealing their eyes. Tang Tian's entire body tensed up, his muscles bulged, and the chains became taut. The gigantic broken mountain peak continued to tremble. The huge commotion and the terrifying undulations had long alarmed many people. Su Yi finally reacted at this time. He did not care about Hiexin. He brought the blood-bear black flag and anxiously chased after Tang Tian. But what shocked him was that Master's speed was actually increasing. How is that possible? How can someone wield such a terrifying divine power? Su Yi quickly caught up to Tang Tian. The closer he got, the stronger the tremors became, and the more terrifying the commotion became. Su Yi had a misconception that no matter what kind of enemy it was, in front of the master, they would all be crushed. Rumble, rumble. He could no longer remember why he wanted to kill Su Xiangdong. For the sake of saving everyone, for the sake of creating a commotion, he ignored all of that. He only had the simplest and purest thought, to kill Su Xiangdong. His entire body released a blood-red light, as though he had walked out of a mountain of blades and a sea of blood, causing people's hearts to palpitate. The eyes that were revealed by the mask were ice-cold without a trace of warmth. He continued to walk forward as though no one was around. This guy is not simple. Rumble, rumble. Ooh. It was the first time Hiexin had met someone who relied on brute force to destroy his own puppet. The broken mountain peak's speed gradually increased, leaving behind a large scar on the ground. Ghost face mask. Null division. Aside from the shock, an indescribable emotion surged in his mind. He leapt up and flew into the air. With a flick of his arm, the blood-bear black flag in his hand shot out like an arrow, stabbing into the broken mountain peak. The group of people followed closely behind as though they had been injected with chicken blood. In their ice-cold minds, there was only one thought, to kill Su Xiangdong. Behind the ghost face mask, a roar came out, like that of a wild beast. Rumble, rumble. He did not expect that the first thing he comprehended was not the most familiar grasping flower seal, but the rarely used angry fist seal. The faceless sky demon in his body had one of its arms forming the angry fist seal. The gigantic sky demon released a faint red light, with an empty face that seemed to be filled with anger. Seeing that Tang Tian was walking towards the fake mountain, they immediately jumped away. The collapsed walls and the messy courtyard showed how intense the battle was. Looking at Tang Tian, who was like a killing god, no one dared to touch him. Chapter 749. So naive. An unprecedented fear spread in his heart. These damn ants, they dare to go against me. I want to kill them all. Kill them all? That was not a fist, it was a seal. He squinted his eyes, retracting all of his chi, like a piece of dead wood. He blended into the surrounding chi. The number of puppets that died in his hands were countless. Ever since he gained enlightenment on the Death Heart Seed, he became more and more fearless. To be able to use those ants as his puppets, it was the proudest thing in their lives. The commotion in the crowd became bigger and bigger as they shared the same hatred. The number of death strings it required was on a completely different level compared to the death puppets. The death puppets were just the main joints of their bodies. With the death strings wrapped around them, they could be controlled to fight. But the Death Thread King puppet was already made up of death strings. The arm-thick chain struck the Death Thread King puppet that was pouncing towards the crowd, just that this time, the Death Thread King puppet was not sent flying, but was tightly wrapped around by the chain. A scalp-numbing sound swept past everyone's head. After a moment, the Death Thread King puppet that was wrapped around by the death strings crawled out from the ruins. As though nothing had happened, it flew into the sky and once again entered the battle. King Puppet Scythe. So tragic. Hexen was loyal to the Su family. At that moment, he no longer cared about his own life and death. Suddenly, a cry of grief came out from the crowd. A lady covered her mouth, her face pale white, her body swaying. It was her brother, who had actually become a Death Thread King puppet. That familiar face was now completely white, without a trace of blood. He was already dead. Demon Eye Slash. Just at that moment, another Death Thread King puppet sneaked up behind Tang Tian. But it was the same as the last time. It was another Demon Eye Slash, like an antelope hanging its horn, without a trace. The Death Thread King puppet that was wrapped around by the chain flew back. Its black eyes lit up with a faint black light. It raised its arm, which transformed into a black mist, and fiercely waved at Tang Tian. Xian's face changed. Damn it. Once his hiding place was found, he would be in danger. The death line broke and fluttered in all directions. Another deathly pale and lifeless face appeared. A cry of grief came out from the crowd. A middle-aged man knelt on the ground, his entire body trembling as he cried out. The green and black ghost face, the pair of dim eyes, suddenly lit up with a red light. Seeing that, Su Ye's eyes lit up and spoke out, I train in life and death laws, and to control the Death King puppet, I cannot exceed a 300 m radius. Bang. Ghost Face Mask's strength far exceeded his imagination, and he already believed that he was truly Ancestor Li's inheritor. When he fought with Tang Tian, he could clearly feel the changes in the Ghost Face Mask. Previously, Ghost Face Mask's strength was astonishing, but compared to now, it was on a completely different level. But, do you think you can stop the Death King puppet like this? Puppeteer was the one controlling the undead puppets during the battle. Puppeteer controlled the undead puppets through the strings of death. On the other hand, the Death Thread Lord puppet was able to fight on its own. The dense and powerful death aura seeped into the puppet's body and fundamentally changed its body structure. The Death King puppet called Xiang wriggled and wrapped his head again. With the continuous slashes, the identities of the remaining 3 puppets were revealed. Tang Tian also had a few more wounds on his body. At that moment, the battle had reached its climax. To be able to become my puppets is your honor. Other than the fact that the law surface could provide a dense death aura, it could also form a state between the law space and the law surface, and to a certain extent, it could borrow the power of the law space. The other 4 Death King puppets pounced on Tang Tian at the same time. Countless of black death threads shot out from their bodies, and caught off guard, Tang Tian's arms, legs and waist were wrapped tightly by the black death threads. When Su Yi saw the Death King puppet, he was completely stunned. Does Hexen have a grudge with Master? This blade slashed onto the Death King puppet's face, and the surging powers suddenly exploded out. He could even sense that Su Yi was searching for him. Everything started from the transformation of the fist, from the strange red light. And the death thread net that looked like a flower, it was definitely a seal. The 5 Death King puppets knew how to coordinate, and the pressure on Tang Tian increased. He only needed 1 Death King puppet to kill all of them. You want to uphold justice? When you see the people around you dying one by one, let's see if you still want to be a hero. In the history of the Sin domain, no one had ever gained enlightenment on Death God, as the history of the Sin domain was too short. Hexen sneered in his heart. If the first slash revealed the Death King puppet's true face was a coincidence, then this time, he immediately understood Ghost Face Mask's thoughts. You want to borrow the power of an ant to deal with me? Death King puppet. Bang. Go and die. Death Puppet Master. Find him. He is nearby. The commotion among the crowd became bigger and bigger. All of the martial artists who were initially watching the show all revealed looks of anger. To use a living person as a puppet, that was a cruel thing. Such a terrifying and cruel person was actually in East Immortal City, and such a cruel thing actually happened in front of them. If the puppet master gained enlightenment on the law space, the Death King puppet would transform into the final form of a puppet, Death God. A palm suddenly appeared in its field of vision. Bang! Suyi could not believe his own eyes. Is this old man crazy? Is he Exine crazy? The Death King puppet was not something that could be activated with a law surface. The formation of the Death King puppet required many harsh conditions, and that was an even higher level of power. Tang Tian's footsteps finally stopped. 5 black figures brought forth countless of afterimages as they flew around Tang Tian. Their movements were extremely fast, much faster than the death puppets, and their strength had increased greatly. But the most terrifying thing was that their battle awareness had increased. Compared to them, the previous death puppets were as clumsy as toys. The heart-wrenching sobs pierced into everyone's hearts. The Death King puppet's head suddenly fell backwards. The death threads that were tightly wrapped around its face were all cut off, flying everywhere, revealing a pale and lifeless face. Xiang. Find him. Seeing that he had already burned a third of his law surface, Xin was confident. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will drag Ghostface Mask down with me. Ghostface Mask was obviously not as good as before. The red light around his body had dimmed. The intense battle had consumed a lot of Ghostface Mask's energy. Footsteps continued to sweep past him, but the Ghostface Mask did not sense his presence. He had killed countless people, and was a vicious and merciless person. How could he be affected by such a small matter? His palm was like a blade. The slash did not make any sound. It was ethereal and unpredictable. Understanding Ghostface Mask's thoughts, Xian's consciousness also entered the Death King puppet's mind, and a few figures flashed towards Tang Tian. But when he saw it clearly, he immediately understood. The Su family. Xian is from the Su family. No, I definitely cannot let them find me. Sensing Xian's killing intent and fear, one of the Death King puppets suddenly retreated and turned to pounce towards the group. Bang bang bang. Xian's attainments in Death King puppets was already comparable to the strongest martial artists in history. For the sake of stopping Ghostface Mask, he did not hesitate to ignite his own law surface. The Death King puppet, as a peak existence second only to the Death God, was extremely powerful, and was hailed as the puppet closest to the Death God. One of the Death King puppets took the opportunity when Tang Tian was being held back by his 3 companions to break through the chains. Sticking close to the ground, it quietly rushed towards Tang Tian. But I have to get through this stage first, then we can talk about it. If Ghostface Mask is truly Ancestor Li's inheritor, then I can't let him live. If Ghostface Mask survives, then the Su family will be taken care of in a single night. The crowd went into an uproar. A few people rushed to the lady's side and consoled her. Their faces were filled with grief and indignation. Heart-wrenching cries resonated throughout the entire street. Tang Tian's hand trembled. The chains wrapped around the Death King puppet and flew back. That's right, he must be nearby. He actually took Xiang. Xian's face finally changed. Regardless of how perfect he was at concealing himself, he would not be able to escape from the meticulous search. The arm disappeared and transformed into a black scythe, bringing with it an eerie death aura. It slashed towards Tang Tian's neck. Even if I have to risk my life, I will find that bastard. A robust man said angrily. But at the moment, Tang Tian was not afraid at all. He was immersed in the angry fist seal. His burning body and ice-cold consciousness had achieved a miraculous balance. The arm-thick chains were weightless in his hands, and when they swept through the air, they brought forth a low and deep whistling sound, as though they were the roars of ancient beasts. Countless of fine tooth-like ripples spread out in the air. The courtyard turned into fine powder. He had perfectly concealed his aura. The death law space was called Hell, and Death God was one of the strongest forms of power in Hell. There was no doubt that the Death Puppet Master was powerful, but it was extremely difficult to train in, and had extremely high requirements on one's comprehension and temperament. Luckily, the commotion was too big and the nearby citizens were all experienced and had long escaped far away. Su Ye's talent was not bad, but a pity, his personality was too soft in the life and death law. If he could not even risk his life, what was the point of training? He, who was used to seeing blood, scoffed at such a flower that was kept in a greenhouse. The Xan who was hiding in the darkness had blood flowing out of his mouth, nose, eyes, and ears. His expression was terrifying. All of these ant-like existences still want to find me. They truly overestimate themselves. A sinister look flashed past his eyes. Ghost Face Mask's movements became slower. He was extremely fatigued. The Xian's face that was covered in blood was extremely sinister. He was used to the ugliness of humans, and knew what they would look like in times of danger. The Xian was shocked. If it was true, then it would definitely be a huge earthquake to the Sin domain. Ancestor Li was powerful in the past. He had given grace to the Sin domain, and his inheritor was also so powerful, I'm afraid. 300 everyone spread out. Do not let anything go. Dig 3 feet into the ground. I don't believe that we can't find him. The robust man said with hatred. The thick and sturdy chains brought forth afterimages, striking onto a Death King puppet that was attempting to sneak an attack on Tang Tian. The sound of bones and tendons breaking was drowned out by the low whistling sound and the oppressive striking sound, and could not be heard. The Death King puppet was like a ball that was struck, its black figure flashed, and like an angry arrow, it fiercely crashed into a courtyard. Su Yi was an astute person, and immediately understood the situation. Could it be that he is truly Ancestor Li's inheritor? But he Xin carefully recalled that punch just now. Suddenly, his heart stirred. He remembered. Ghost Face Mask's fist. No, it was not a fist, it was an empty fist. The fist was empty. He did not dare to continue thinking. At this moment, the martial artists dispersed. They hated this death puppeteer to the core. Bang! Both parties were getting closer and closer. Its black pupils flashed with a light aura. Its figure disappeared, and in the next moment, it appeared behind Tang Tian. What was even more unexpected was that its teleportation did not have any undulations of laws. Regardless of anything, I have to kill Ghost Face Mask. Chapter 750. In the air, a lone arm held onto the death god's scythe. It's perfect. Without thinking, he tiptoed again, and the high-speed rotation caused his body to slip again. Such a strange scene caused everyone's hair to stand on end. He laughed maniacally, completely not concealing himself. His entire life of hard work, his entire life of darkness, his entire life of stubbornness and intolerance, he viewed human lives as grass, and at that moment, he had finally taken a step that he had never dared to take in his entire life. So, the death aura around the king puppet with the broken arm quickly dissipated. It became dim and disappeared like smoke. The miraculous change was happening in Tang Tian's body at an astonishing speed. I can't let Uncle He's sacrifice be in vain. They only felt their bodies becoming light as they subconsciously grabbed onto the death threads tightly. The 4 Death King puppets were actually lifted up by Tang Tian. But it was different now. Tang Tian felt as though there was a boundless ocean in his body. Casually brandishing it, he could hear the boundless power roaring in his body. He wanted to take down Purple Cuckoo City before anyone else. So, the taut death threads were extremely sturdy. An astonishing power came from the death threads, causing the Death King puppet's body to immediately lose its balance. He knew what it was the death god's arm, Uncle He's final burning of himself, and finally caught a glimpse of the figure behind the door of hell. Although it was just an arm, but it was the arm of the death god. Although it was not complete, it still represented a higher level of power. The extremely sturdy Death King puppet was easily sliced into 2. The Death King puppet that was sliced into 2 did not shed a single drop of blood. As though the black scythe had eaten its fill, it became even more dense and black, and continued to fly towards Tang Tian. The black flames engulfed his body. The Xin who was in the darkness had his vision turned red, as 2 lines of blood flowed down from his eyes. Large amounts of blood flowed out from his mouth, nose, and ears. Burn my body, return to the silent earth. Another Death King puppet was slapped onto the King puppet's scythe, and like a piece of paper, it was sliced into two. The King puppet's scythe absorbed the death energy of two King puppets and became as black as ink, with a strange metallic luster. It drew a strange arc in the air, bringing along a mournful screech, and continued to shoot towards Tang Tian. Boom! Purple Cuckoo City. His gaze suddenly blazed with passion. Tang Tian's heart skipped a beat. His spinning body didn't stop at all, but the tip of his foot lightly tapped the ground. Uncle He, Death God's scythe. Xiao, the scythe was like a shark that smelled blood. It rushed over and pierced through the two clouds of black mist. The two clouds of black mist instantly disappeared, leaving nothing behind. The black scythe stopped and floated quietly in the air. Its appearance had completely changed. On the broad blade, there were many twisted and hideous human faces, from small to large. The edge of the scythe was even more terrifying. It was a row of sharp teeth with traces of blood on them. What did not match with the broad blade was its long and slender handle, causing people to suspect that it would break if they used a bit of force. Tang Tian's ice-cold state of mind finally had a ripple. Suddenly, he understood something. Could it be that the Demon Six Seals is not a martial technique for fighting, but for tempering the body? The surrounding people all took in cold breaths, all of their faces were pale as they watched the scene. I never thought that before I die, I would actually be able to use this technique. The death energy that permeated into Tang Tian's body dissipated upon contact with the red light. Haha! To be able to die in front of this technique, I am extremely lucky. His entire body continued to bleed, and suddenly the blood beads started to emit tiny black flames. His deranged face regained its calmness, and the current him had an indescribable serenity. The ground beneath his feet crumbled, and the spinning Tang Tian slid a few meters to the side as though he was sliding on ice. This thought flashed past his mind, but it was not the time to think about it. The Death Line's power was immense, and Tang Tian felt as though his bones were about to break. Tang Tian never thought that the scythe would be so strange. When he was 12 years old, Uncle He left. A strange smile surfaced on his face. Tang Tian's ice-cold state of mind did not have any ripples. His eyes were like burning red iron, emitting an aura that caused people's hearts to palpitate. Xian chuckled. At this point, it was already impossible for him to survive. But his heart was filled with fanaticism, his expression was deranged, he consecutively used all of the death aura from the 5 Death King puppets, and combusted 4/5 of his matured law surface, to finally create this technique. The Death Law puppet system's indisputable ultimate killing technique, and was the strongest killing technique in the entire Death Law system. Tang Tian's heart suddenly felt a sense of danger. It happened extremely quickly, to the point that when everyone heard the deranged laughter, before they could react, Xian had already been engulfed by the flames. Xian's body melted like ice inside the black flames, but his face maintained a calm and peaceful smile. Su Xiangdong raised his head, 2 streams of hot tears flowed down his cheeks, mixing with the pitch-black juice. A moment later, he wiped away his tears, completely disregarding the black bitter juice on his face. His gaze became ruthless, and his expression became calm and composed again. He did not even glance at Ghost Face Mask's figure, he was already a dead man. Risking my life. Tang Tian's face finally changed. If he did not personally see the arm and the scythe, he would not have sensed anything. Just at that moment, on the pole, a hand started to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye, and when it reached the elbow joint, it stopped. The scythe did not move. Bang! You are a devil, I am an angel. An indescribable power quietly took shape in his reconstructed flesh and blood. Origin force was formed from the combustion of the power of the physique, and Tang Tian's power was also formed from the layers of the physique. The speed was as fast as lightning, but it still required a process of gathering and forming. So, he was speechless, he could have made a move, but he did not. Uncle He had already become everyone's enemy, the mortal enemy of the entire East Immortal City. If he stood out, the entire Su family would become everyone's enemy. I can't make a move. They exploded into 2 balls of black mist in the air, but strangely, the 2 balls of mist congealed and did not dissipate, as though they were alive. It was extremely terrifying. He watched Uncle He ignite his law surface, watched Uncle He ignite himself, and watched the death god's hand holding onto the scythe. Many blurry scenes from the past flashed past his eyes, the toddler who was learning how to walk and calling out for Uncle He to carry him. In the images of the young, there was always the figure who was always hugging him and smiling. The Black Death tightly coiled around Tang Tian, and Tang Tian could clearly feel the power coming from the death line, and the bone-chilling corrosion, as though countless of worms were drilling into his body. Ghost Face Mask is dead. In his mind, the majestic and indifferent sky demon also felt the immense threat. Without thinking, he grabbed onto the 2 Death King puppets' hands, and with a shake, the 2 king puppets were flung out. The broken arm was not thick, but on the contrary, it was thin and weak, its skin was pale white, and its 5 slender fingers held onto the scythe's hilt. The lone broken arm held onto the scythe, as though it had just been chopped off from a human body. There was still blood flowing out from the wound. The faces of the vengeful spirits on the scythe were all distorted, and wails could be heard. No matter how tightly they covered their ears, they were unable to stop the sounds. The rows of sharp teeth at the edge of the scythe slowly slid, like a hungry wild beast that could not wait any longer. But the surging red light continued to spread out from the sky demon's body, like blazing flames. The flesh and blood in Tang Tian's body combusted silently. The red light was like a furnace fire, the flesh and blood were like furnace materials, continuously combusting and reforming. To be able to die under this move, I am truly lucky. 20 years later, Uncle He, who had killed countless of people, brought back countless of blood and vengeful spirits, brought back the name of someone who viewed human life as grass, and changed his name to become the smiling Uncle He again. Is this the true meaning of the angry fist seal? It was like a surging ocean. No, it was a blazing ocean, majestic and restless. Any small movement would cause a tsunami. He did not have much hatred in his heart, and he felt that there was no meaning in hating a man who was about to die. Bang. Taking down Purple Cuckoo City and the numerous Null Division prisoners will allow the Su family to step onto a higher stage. Purple Cuckoo City without Ghost Face Mask, in his eyes, was like an unguarded beauty. It was extremely alluring. A Death King puppet that was flung into the air was like a hammer, smashing onto the king puppet's scythe. Without any movements, the ocean of power in his body roared, causing Tang Tian's eyes to light up with a dazzling red light. His opened arms did not move, but the power in his waist suddenly exploded out, and his body suddenly spun. In mid-air, both of his hands suddenly extended forward, his palms moving like lightning, grabbing onto the throats of 2 Death King puppets. Crack! The Death King puppets' necks shattered. But the Death King puppets were like 2 cockroaches that could not die. Although their necks were broken, they still used their hands and feet to attack Tang Tian. I can die in peace, you ants. He could feel that when the broken arm was completely regenerated, the dense death aura on the scythe suddenly disappeared without a trace. I can't do that. The black regiment of fire floated quietly in the air, squirming like it was alive. Suddenly, it transformed into a black fiery light and entered the death god's scythe. Time seemed to have stopped. The extremely dense death aura congealed into the scythe, releasing a dense death aura, as though it was the death god's scythe that specialized in reaping lives. The king puppet's strength was ultimately far from the death god. For the sake of unleashing the scythe, it had to sacrifice an arm. He wanted to embrace death, the world's greatest and most eternal destination. Su Xiangdong, who was in the distance, watched silently, his mouth gently chewing on the bitter fruit, the ink-like bitter juice becoming more and more bitter. All living things returned to death. The ants in his eyes were like that. He was like that as well. He was just a speck in the mortal world, his heart towards the eternal darkness. That was his path. That was the source of life. Chapter 751. He closed his eyes, his body slightly leaned forward, and his arms drooped down. If only God Fist is completed, In his red and trembling vision, there was only the scythe raised by the single arm, the thin and pale white arm, the slender fingers, the row of sharp teeth, the twisted human face. All of this knowledge was like a story, a legend, from the day he started learning life and death laws, so he had never thought that he would see it with his own eyes. The pitch-black scythe aura slashed onto the bright red cross blade aura. But at this time, Tang Tian's eyes were red from losing, and he used all the chips that he could to bet, and bet them all. The Exen had disappeared for 10 years, but when he appeared again, he was so powerful and tyrannical, it was enough to shake the entire Sin domain. Tang Tian did not know what use it had, but he did not have the time to think about it. With every step, the ground of East Immortal City would tremble. In the legends, the 12 A-grade infamous men were all powerful martial artists that were able to enter the list of powerhouses. But compared to the martial artists on the list of powerhouses, they were even more mysterious. All of their hands were stained with blood and had countless enemies. They had tyrannical strength, and some ruled over a region, but the majority of them were mysterious, and few people knew of them. Only when they appeared in front of people and caused a storm of blood would people think of them. The scene before him made Su Yi unable to imagine it, and he was extremely shocked. It was just that the death god's arm and scythe was actually able to absorb the entire city's life force. If the real death god appeared, wouldn't the entire East Immortal City's life force be instantly sucked dry? Come, broken scythe. You broken scythe. The commotion was huge, and the entire East Immortal City was shaken. A terrifying existence that came from the highest realm of laws had descended into the world. To Su Yi, who trained in life and death laws, it was a completely different scene. The entire East Immortal City's life force was quietly slipping away. The loss was extremely slow, and without reaching the corresponding realm of strength, one would not even be able to sense the loss of life force. Crackle crackle. Tang Tian's eyes released a bright light aura, causing the entire space around East Immortal City to tremble. To the Grim Reaper, this shocking word was as easy as lifting a finger. No, it did not need to raise its hand, it only needed to stand there. With every step he took, countless fragments left the ground and slowly floated into the sky. Suddenly, Su Yi felt envious, to be able to see the highest law palace through the crack of the door before he died. How fortunate was that? He knew that with his talent and level, he might not be able to reach He Xian's level before he died. He Xian had already pushed open that door, the door to the highest hall of laws, the highest realm that any martial artist could only dream of. No one knew if anyone had ever been to that palace or what it looked like. The space around him trembled violently as visible ripples spread out in all directions. The fine ripples, with Tang Tian as the center, spread out to the entire East Immortal City. They were like waves of spatial shock waves, causing the entire space in East Immortal City to become extremely unstable. With a light sound, a small crack appeared on the brick, and a piece the size of a grain of rice slowly floated up. With every step he took, his aura rose by a notch. Su Yi was extremely excited, seeing hope. The gray spots on his body quickly disappeared, and his life force became vigorous. The citizens of East Immortal City seemed to have awoken from a dream. All of them flew away with pale faces. The six-armed demon in his body had a solemn and dignified appearance. Its entire body was releasing a dense red light. The angry fist seal on its palm had a red flame that was slowly throbbing. Waves of red light, along with the throbbing of the red flame, continued to spread out. Tang Tian started to rush towards the scythe and the arm. His steel-like eyes were blazing red. The wind whistled past his ears. The extremely fast wind brought along the trembling sound of the space around him, causing the flames in his red eyes to surge. Tang Tian was like a cat with its fur standing on end. The intense sense of danger caused him to tense up. Even though the arm did not have any aura when it raised the scythe, it was an extremely normal movement. But Tang Tian's intuition was extremely sharp, and the sense of danger in his heart was so dense that it felt like it was real. Tang Tian could faintly see a blurry figure beside the arm brandishing the scythe. The black blade aura quietly broke through the air. A deep sense of despair enveloped Su Ye's body. He stared at the master in a daze, as though he was waiting for the master to die. "Come on, broken scythe." The spectators' faces all changed, but Su Ye's eyes lit up. He suddenly thought about the Thunder Wind spear Lu Tianwen, and how shocking his last spear was. Master's aura is actually even more astonishing than Lu Tianwen's last spear. He took a deep breath. He had a strong premonition that the attack he was about to face would be the strongest attack he had ever faced. "Massacre the city. No one can stop me." Threads of life force converged from all directions, and entered the death god's scythe. A low and melodious melody came out from the scythe. The twisted and struggling faces on the scythe became peaceful. The dense red light flowed out like blood. Tang Tian's expression was calm and determined. He was not anxious at all. He breathed calmly, as though he was about to fall asleep. His entire body did not have any killing intent. The bright red light converged towards his arms. Su Ye's face was ashen, and his body started to have gray spots. He trained in life and death laws, and maintained a balance between life and death in his body, but at that moment, the intense despair caused his body and mind to lose balance, and the power of death started to gain the upper hand. Master Ghost Face Mask's aura is so powerful. Subduing Spirit Song. Su Ye's face was pale white, his eyes were sluggish. With every step he took, the red light around his body became dimmer, but the red light on his arms became denser. Tang Tian stared at the scythe in front of him. He squinted his eyes, but there was no fear in his heart. Tang Tian's eyes did not waver in the slightest. His expression was extremely calm. The sacrificial execution's greatest taboo was to waver in the slightest, but Tang Tian did not waver, not even in the slightest. He had gained enlightenment on the demon figure from the sacrificial execution, and at the moment, the demon figure was giving back to the sacrificial execution. The two of them came from the same source, and with their combination, the situation was immediately different. This time, Tang Tian had a knife on his neck, and was forced into a desperate situation. The two of them formed an intense contrast. The scythe and the arm's aura were restrained, and if one did not see them, they would not be able to sense their existence. Master Ghost Face Mask was the complete opposite. His aura was released. He was like a regiment of flames, burning more and more intensely. The demon's 6 seals were formed at the same time, and in the dense red light, a few flower petals appeared out of nowhere and slowly dropped down. Upon landing on the demon's body, they disappeared. Tang Tian roared in his heart. All the power in his body converged into his arms. He felt as though his arms were heavier than a broken mountain, and every step he took required him to use all his strength. His arms felt as though they were about to explode, as though something was about to break out of them. Tang Tian's body was being cleansed by the red light again and again. The boundless power converged and dispersed in a rhythmic pattern. Save everyone and fight side by side with everyone and then win. 2 bright red blade auras converged in front of Tang Tian, transforming into a red cross blade aura. Light explosions continued to sound out. Tang Tian's aura continued to soar. He did not move at all, like a statue, only his eyes became even brighter. A thought flashed past Tang Tian's mind, but he quickly threw it to the back of his mind. In his vision, the pale skinny arm gently waved the scythe down. Failure and death, that was the final outcome and the only outcome. Is this the A-grade infamous man? If all the life in the city was sucked dry, it would become a true city of death, a city of death laws. Pure death laws will continue to breed and grow, and the place will become hell. That's right, Master is the powerful martial artist who killed Lu Tianwen. Just at that moment, the arm slowly raised the scythe in its hand. Although he did not know where the scythe and the arm came from, but he had been through many battles, and his judgment of the danger level of the battle was instinctive. Such a strange and unconventional scene had surpassed all of his knowledge. Bang bang bang. That scythe, that arm. The power in Tang Tian's body that was like an ocean surged endlessly. Tang Tian's aura started to rise. Tang Tian, who was forced into a corner, used all of the power he could muster. Using the demon's 6 seals to strengthen sacrificial execution, even if the other 5 seals are dim and without light, and are just for show. This thought came from his mind when he was fighting against the Death King puppet. Is the demon six seals used to fight or to temper the body? The scythe and the arm were extremely strange and sinister. The strange scene had exceeded the limits of their imagination, causing everyone to feel a chill down their spines. But Ghost Face Mask was a completely different scene. He did not conceal his tyrannical and wild aura. It was something they had never seen before. It was like a gigantic beast, releasing an ancient and inextinguishable might. At that moment, Tang Tian was on the verge of exploding. Borrowing the momentum, he used his two arms to slash upwards. The surrounding air flow became chaotic. The powerful aura caused the space around him to become unstable. His body was like the eye of a storm. The rapid wind caused his clothes to flutter. Su Yi suddenly raised his head, his face revealing a look of shock. His ashen face suddenly revealed a trace of life. The Death God's right arm, the Death God's scythe. This is the reason why I am standing here, and this is the reason why I must do it. Pieces of cracks started to form on the ground. Every step he took caused the space around East Immortal City to tremble. Suddenly he reacted and shouted to the surrounding spectators, "All of you, scatter! All of you, scatter! Move further away!" He opened his eyes, which were as determined as steel, as though nothing could make him waver. Sensing Tang Tian's determination in his silence, the demon's 6 arms formed seals, but the seals on the other 5 arms were extremely blurry. Since it is the strongest attack, then I will deliver my strongest attack as well. He could also feel the life in the entire city being continuously devoured by the strange scythe. The low and melodious spirit-suppressing song, upon nearing Tang Tian, was dissolved by the red light and disappeared. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.